G'day, g'day. Good evening, everyone. So 1 minute earlier than what I actually said I would be. So, yeah, just getting the oxalate juice ready. Out of time. Forgot all about it. So just need a bit of a pick-me-up, so to speak, after the late night last night and morning show and then out for a walk. Did go up the hill. It's really strange in Hobart at the moment. I walked up the hill. There's this young bloke walking down again. He sort of crossed away. He was sort of keeping distance. He had gloves on. He had full mask and all that. And I'm going, this is weird. I wasn't wearing anything. Got up to the top, sort of, it came down the other way, got back in through Augusta Road and back down to my place. And I'm going, bloody hell. And I came across two elderly. One lady is like she was wearing a facial burqa. She was literally from here right down because she had, she was using basically some sort of material to cover because she had no mask. And I'm going, people have gone insane. People in cars. There was about 5 or 6 cars that went past me. Beyond the one tradie that wasn't wearing a mask, everyone else was wearing a mask inside the car on their own. It's just ridiculous. I'm going, what is this? This is just not normal. Oh, God, it's a weird world out there. And we got another day of lockdown. I did carry a mask in my pocket just in case there was a police car or something. I'd put it on just quickly. I didn't want to get charged, for any reason, but she's a weird world out there. Let's put it that way. G'day, Tracy. We recovered. Not really. It was a late night. I was planning, it ended up from 3 hours, 6 hours Zoom session. So, yeah, by the time I got to bed, it was about 3:30 in the morning, Tracy. So I was pretty much buggered. And I forgot to actually, on my alarm, I forgot to change the time. So it woke me up at about, I think it was about 6:30 or whatever. And so it really stuffed, I only got 3 hours of sleep. And then right after that, I went back and then overslept and then sort of just reset the time to about 9 o'clock, but went right through that, ignored it, my body, and then got up at about around 10-ish. So I still had enough time, and then it was a mad rush, running around like a mad goose, trying to get myself prepared and ready. So, yeah. Anyway, nothing new there. I can be a bit of a goose sometimes when I'm in a hurry. Yes. Robert. Oh, yes, another one. Yes. At least somebody appreciates it. Yes, we won't go that far, but anyway, Lord of Tasmania. That is Carney power, exactly. Carney power is precisely it. Yeah. In the old kibble days, God, I'd be done. I haven't even had like a siesta. I went for a walk and then came back, and then, Hello Key, my next door, she contacted me, and then she had something for me, and then I took her over something low carb, and yeah. And then basically I got back. I said, look, I have to go. Do you realize that, I'm on in about less than 1 hour? So I came back, did that. I actually watched the remainder of that excrement from Paul Saladino. I was absolutely shocked, absolutely shocked, out of my mind, Chris Kresser in Paleo Effects literally debunked this sort of alkaline bullshit a long time ago. This hypothesis has been debunked a long time. Is he so completely, utterly stupid? What has happened? Or maybe it's all the carbs, the 200 grams of carbs that Paul Saladino is consuming, that he's actually completely and utterly lost his marbles. The kidneys themselves, in terms of ion exchange, 70+% of your ATP synthesized in your kidneys is involved in these ion exchanges and recycling uric acid and sodium, and it will release what it doesn't need. which is excess. Bones have absolutely nothing to do with it. Absolute excrement, that nonsense. I mean, there are studies, clinical studies. I'll do that bloody video this week. I need to bloody do it because I've been talking about it, but I haven't done it. I'll actually include that video, which actually shows, removing specific stuff. It's protein, salt, which is sodium, and all that builds bone. This sort of bullshit is just beyond a joke. And also, I've actually shown the leucine one. Really important. Eat bloody more meat, Paul, and stop eating carbs if you want to basically maintain good bones and stuff like that, muscle skeletal structure. It's absolute, this is just nonsense. This is the sort of garbage that, some of the idiots out there have been, pushing for ages, and it's absolute excrement. It's what the vegan community and the vegetarian community have been pushing that excrement for years. It's nonsense. The body is actually very able to maintain very tight homeostasis. It's a non-issue, as Bart explained. He's actually done a study on it. That was his study, that one, the initial one that he showed. He's actually shown exactly all the different, ions and how they work and how they operate. I know there are stuff, like I can understand the average person that goes and looks, and when you look at a website and you Google like citric acid or acetate, it'll actually tell you that it's basically the same when it's not. It operates very differently. And so one sort of draws an hydrogen, and the other one basically a sodium. And if you actually look quite clearly at the biochemistry books, they actually show this distinction. But when you actually Google something, everything's the same or whatever. Maybe he just Googles his shit and actually just regurgitates it. I mean, it's probably, with his lifestyle, running around with his sports car and all that, he's like a lot of people that I've come across that are really good. I got top marks. And then when you ask them a question in their field, they've got no idea. They can't remember. It's sort of they write it and then they forget it, sort of thing. They don't, not really good retention because they never really understood it. You have to understand something to retain it. Anybody can regurgitate anything for an exam. You can read like mad and remember a whole lot of things. And then a couple of weeks later, you can't remember it because you never really understood it. You never really studied it, to be honest. That's the reality. But I suspect he got through that way himself. Maybe that's why he didn't go to general clinical, because he just didn't have that capacity. And so he went to something like, which is a bit more pseudo-y, which is psychiatry, which is not a precise science. So maybe Bart's right about that he basically is completely ignorant about a lot of this sort of stuff when it comes to physiology. I mean, this is just basic. I mean, Chris Kresser can get it right. What's wrong with Salad Boy? Absolute extra. I just watched it just a while ago. I'd finished watching it because I haven't watched his live stream yet. I will get to that later, probably tomorrow. But yeah, I was just shocked. I couldn't basically believe the garbage that was coming out of Salad Boy's mouth. Absolute excrement. And Bart's right. Paul, fucking eat more meat. That's what you need. I'll do the actual study as well. There's another one which actually shows about nephrons and all that, and about, basically taurine. What things are high in taurine? Seafood and meats are high in taurine, and it actually fixes that. How do you think I fixed my dad's problems? He had problems with his kidneys, and he had also some, sort of growths and stuff like that. His kidneys are much healthier now. I mean, remember the rat study? Massive amount, 70% protein, massive kidneys. I mean, you want healthy kidneys that actually can excrete and work and do ion exchanges and work really well? Eat fucking more protein, Paul. Simple as that. Look at really some mechanistic studies and stop looking at some of these associational excrement studies and bullshit studies that are just related to, the dietary bullshit that people push out there. God almighty, it was hard watching. I can understand why, why my butt was so exasperated. I was going through and I was exasperated. I'm going, what is wrong with this guy? He's beyond lost the plot, Robert. He's fucking, he's really gone off the reservation. I mean, that stuff is debunked a long time ago. He's completely, utterly useless in that regard. Anyway, I all fed my chilling before 6:30 a walk. Why not? I'm still looking for info. Will the mandates end with the emergency powers in New South Wales? No one seems to have a clue. Yeah, basically, I mean, even down here, like the Premier said things that are a bit contradictory. So I don't think they're really, really with it. I mean, it just seems like the goalpost changes, the message changes. I think they can't really get it together, basically, so don't know. It's weird to say the least. Harry. Harry is like the fat-fueled, energized bunny. He just keeps going and going and going. Oh, yes, very much so. Oh, mate, if you knew me earlier, years ago, you wouldn't be talking like that. You'd say, Harry's a fat, lazy slob that can hardly get his act together, and he's always basically dozing off or doing this or that. That was Harry. Yes, slightly about 15 years ago. So, yeah, he was a struggle. Let's put it that way. But, yes. In hindsight, I mean, the experience that I went through, 11 years ago with my cardiovascular surgery was horrendous, painful, quite hard on me emotionally. It's something that it's only recently I've talked about it. I've sort of put it in my back mind. I don't want to go revisit it. It's in the past. Fuck off. I don't want to know. I've moved on sort of attitude. But the reality is when I look back, mate, I was bad. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a long journey. Let's put it that way in the last couple of years. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Tom, mate. Flipping YouTube. Oh, well, I actually was trying to put some posts on the actual, on the UN website, and it kept on deleting them. In the end, I just had to put the posts, none of the links, and just refer to them and actually write out exactly what they actually said, the articles in the actual treaty, and then basically specifically then put my opinions. Absolute annoying, YouTube's become an absolute nonsensical. And I mean, these things were basically valid. They're in the treaty. I'm not basically, putting anything that isn't. I mean, how friggin' idiotic can these people be in the way they behave? Maybe the UN site doesn't like me. Yes. Anyway, good day, Alex. Good to see you, mate. And also good to see you, Mike, as well. Did you change your name recently? It wasn't Mike01. I think it was a bit different. They try to keep me on my toes. That's what I noticed, Richard. They're trying to keep me on my toes. Does anyone else think some women look sexy with masks, or am I just weird? You're weird. I'll send you to Saudi Arabia if you've got that sort of fetish. It's called the Saudi fetish. I'll send you over when you get vaccinated. Harry, I was diagnosed with SMA syndrome. Finally, I know what caused my GI issue for almost 3 years. Okay, so at least you know. If you want some help or whatever, just send me through a reminder, and I'll send you a bit of information in that regard. Oh, I've seen Mousie's on. Mousie's on. Who is this guy? Trevor Jenks. Okay, he's an idiot, is he? Okay, I just noticed. So, Mousy, Alex, you've been having a bit of fun with this guy. Okay, fair enough. You're my moderators. I'll let you basically. I haven't even seen his comments. I don't care. I'll let you guys deal with that sort of stuff. You know best. I trust yous. So in that regard, but yeah, look, where was I? Yep. Are you are weird, Richard? Yeah. I didn't say it. It was Alex. So let's just get that one clear. Bad boy, Alex. You know, I mean, mate. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, where was I? With Tracy. I think she liked that. Thanks, Alex. God, he's a vegetarian. I can see him on this side, which is, so he goes, Trevor Jinks, Matey's murder. Oh, give us a break. You know, mate, just take yourself out. You're useless on the world. You should see what the animals do. They rip their animals apart in nature. We're humane. We put them out and then we slaughter them. We slaughter. We don't murder. And murder is a human thing. With animals, it's a slaughter. It's not murder. And if you think you're like a cow, you've got a big problem, mate. You've got a big problem. You know. And where do you get your ethics, mate? From your cereal pack? That's probably where you get it, because I can tell you, you know, Christianity doesn't support your stuff, and neither does Darwinian evolution. Animals in nature compete. That's how they evolve when they're under evolutionary pressure. They compete for their own niche in the environment. Every single animal is a species. And if the species doesn't put its own self forward, it actually goes out of existence. So you're an absolute moron, because all animals are speciesed, including humans. Now, some of them, because they're slightly more, intelligent, they think that they can actually escape evolution. Well, you can't. So get a grip of yourself. And your personal beliefs are subjective fantasies of a little child that never grew up. That probably watched a lot of animated animals that spoke to him and never was able to cope with reality. So you never grew in a tribal society to actually know what it is to live from what you hunt. Nowadays, we basically, let's say, outsource that responsibility because we're more complicated societies. But it doesn't mean our bodies don't need that stuff. Our bodies do bloody need that stuff. And the N15 data actually shows that all way back through, shows quite clearly that we need that sort of stuff in our bodies, the nutrient density. Anyway, let's leave that Vagoon on his own. Yep. The best advice in GI, I think, about glutamine and taurine. Probably taurine's better. I mean, glutamine I would actually combine with a leucine supplement if you really want to upregulate, you know, the sort of repair mechanisms, and also alpha lipoic acid will also be a thing that I would throw in there. You know, gut issues of any sort. I remember seeing a damn study. It was on PubMed. Anyway, in regards to it, it was a while ago now. So, but you know, these sort of things when it comes to gut repair are very important, because, and also the fat soluble vitamins, because basically collagen is throughout most of the body, and the gut is largely made of collagen. Fat soluble vitamins are very important. So I always say to people, check the liver as well when you've got a gut issue. have you got derangements in the liver? And taurine actually can help as well the liver, reducing the fibrotic tissue, which then allows the reduction of matrix metalloproteinases. Sometimes you may have to intervene with a slightly higher intake of fat-soluble vitamins to upregulate to improve the regulation of those. But you really still need to suppress the overproduction that may be happening from the liver as a response of these inflammatory processes in the gut. So, that's another issue in itself. Yes, troll, welcome. Trolls, welcome. Oh, nice one, Tracy. Yeah, they're just so ridiculous, aren't they? They are so damn ridiculous. Eventually gave up. They are absolutely ridiculous in that regard. So, yes. Thanks, Richard, for, sending him on his way. If he asked, some, like that other guy that, earlier this morning, that a vegan came on, and he was actually interested in asking some questions and finding some information, but he wasn't an idiot. He just basically wanted to say, well, putting his opinion and asking in a polite manner, a respectful manner. Yeah, I didn't mind actually answering him. And he said he'll look into some of that stuff. He showed an interest. But when people are brainwashed and lunatic, just spurting out slogans like, moronic sort of idiots. Oh, hello, Kitty's here. Hello. Yeah, I'll pick the Japanese cheesecake up tomorrow. Yes, we did talk about that today earlier. You remember? Good to see you, Mr. Babes. Well, you're in Melbourne, so how can she get it to you? Aren't you? We're in lockdown. We can't send anything. It comes to me. Any extra. Just letting you know. He is wearing a mask. I saw Honey Nut Cheerios commercial earlier. Oh, well, it's YouTube for you. The funny thing is, each time I actually used to watch, and still watch occasionally, videos, vegan deterioration, right after that, I would get a vegan commercial. Right after that, it was just like, and I'm going, is this a joke? And even with the carnivore, every single carnivore, once you actually finish the thing, you actually get one of these type of commercials, which are related to, sugary stuff and all that. And I'm going, are they doing it deliberately? Just to basically, balance the message? What a load of garbage. I mean, they usually say that to monetize something, they want to apparently match the content creators with basically with your message, and with a commercial. Well, they don't do that. When you actually look at some sites and all that, you go, this site's talking about this sort of stuff, and you're showing stuff that this site doesn't support. How do these two match? It's like they're deliberately doing to, like pushing other narratives. That's what it seems like. Or unless the AI is just completely and utterly stupid and actually just, sees certain words. So if you actually put a message against something, then it will actually tag that, thinking that it's related. Maybe. I don't know. It seems very damn weird. Yeah. They were praising to say that the actor in the commercial is happy because she found out Honey Nut Cheerios lower cholesterol. Oh, yes, fantastic, isn't it? So the seed oils. Let's just drink some of that toxic shit, to lower and damage our bodies. How are you? Why IBD looks higher in Jewish? Looks like God really hates this people. No, it's just sheer accident with some sort of thing. Also, remember the Jews, like a number of other populations around the world do sometimes, like in the Pakistan, they usually have certain genetic diseases that are more predominant because they sort of marry amongst cousins within the family. And the Jews themselves, to some extent, married in smaller communities, and that's because they were sort of, for a very long time, before they actually got back their sort of original homeland, so to speak, they basically were, in all different places, and so there were smaller communities, and they tend to breed, inbreed amongst themselves. That's why you see with the Ashkenazi Jews out of Eastern Europe, genetics are very similar, and there's actually a genetic. I forget the name of the gene, but a neurological sort of disorder that basically just recently Tel Aviv University, I've talked about it before, they actually came up with a solution, phosphatidylserine, which you find in things like eggs and organ meats and stuff like that. But you can actually get a high dose in terms of a supplement, and it actually turns off the gene, literally turns off the gene. These things are high in animal foods. It doesn't surprise me that animal foods fix a lot of neurological things, like a number of people have found in the carnivore community, that have got these sort of conditions. So it doesn't surprise me. So the Tel Aviv University actually found that they could actually switch off with a high dose of phosphatidylserine. And a number of other, when it comes to phosphatidylcholine and serine, tend to work really well for a lot of those neurological things. I usually encourage people just to eat foods rich in choline, like eggs and organ meats, especially if they've got certain issues, brain-related issues and stuff like that. So, yeah, in that regard. But, it's just basically, when certain populations are isolated from their main body for a long time, they can actually, a lot of inbreeding can actually increase. I mean, on some of the islands in Greece, sickle cell anemia is very predominant, again, for similar reasons. There wasn't, a sufficient gene pool, so it actually, things got around, so to speak. So there are those, they call them the island diseases, or the sometimes, that emerge. Yep. I have a friend who has an eye stroke after COVID vaccine, L-citrulline. I will actually, L-citrulline is a good vasodilator, but when it comes to strokes of any sort, the literature is quite clear. I haven't done the video, but the literature is quite clear. Taurine. But if they're on a blood pressure med, they need their meds adjusted as they increase their taurine. I would go up to 5 to 6 grams of taurine for stroke-related issues, like even for cardiovascular-related issues, the same thing. But you've got to go slow as you increase. 1 gram, 2 grams, so 1 week, 1 gram, second week, 2nd gram. If they're basically on blood pressure meds, you may have to spread it over 2 weeks, and you have to go and see a doctor. He will have to go and see a doctor, Alex, and make sure that he's being monitored, that there is adjustments to his, blood pressure meds. It's critical because L-citrulline and taurine do lower both blood pressure. Remember, the extracellular fluids in particular are regulated very highly by taurine. This is another reason why, Bart's right when he actually goes to Salad Boy, eat more meat if you want to regulate your electrolytes. Taurine is the actual major amino acid regulator. The osmotic effect of electrolyte and fluids within the intra and extracellular fluids are regulated by taurine. Critical for that guy. He just wasn't getting enough protein in his diet. Biggest issue, again, fear of protein. This mTOR thing. Anyway, even though the insulin to glucagon is low when you're not including carbs, so there is no risk. It's all in his crazy mind. Yes, again, repeat nonsense. Getting back to strokes, yes, taurine is really, really good. Also, alpha lipoic acid is really good as well, because you can actually get a lot of reactivity due to strokes, and you can get a lot of damage and stuff like that. So taurine is very protective with strokes, and also R-alpha lipoic acid is a major electron donor that can stabilize tissue very rapidly. So you need to take very high doses in that regard. So, yes. Anyway, move on. Bert, mate, good to see you. Hi all. Anyone got any weird looks when they put their week's shopping on Till Rover? Got called Mr. Meaty this week. She said, I had meat on top of meat, LOL. I did get a funny look as well, because there was a lot of people around, and my as I was leaving, it was just all meat and a bit of cream and stuff like that, and I was getting some strange looks, and even when she looks and goes, I said, well, if you're in lockdown, the best food to satisfy satiety is protein. And she looked at me and she said, oh yeah, but they were really giving me the weird look, because normally I just go through, you don't get a lot of people around. I go in the evening after work, and so there's very few people around, but this time there were so many people all around, crowd and all that, and people were just looking at, everybody had kibble. They were just, people were in there just in case, I'm going to miss out on my fucking kibble. And they had all these bags of chips and snacks and crackers and whatever. It was just bloody weird as. Absolutely lunacy in the supermarket. And here's me with a basket, full of basically lamb chops, pork chops, steaks, and all this sort of stuff, and some cream and, some cheeses and stuff like that. It was just weird, and these people were just looking at me strange, and I'm going, I'm not a weird one, let me tell you. God almighty. Yeah, it is weird. Tracy, always into the gutter, my dear, always into the gutter. Leave that to us. Well, especially to me. Any benefit in eating kidney if I already eat liver and heart? Yeah, look, it's got certain nutrients. Look, organ meats are nutrient dense. Do you need them? Is the question. That's what you should be asking yourself. Do I need? I haven't had kidneys for ages. I haven't had heart for ages. And liver, I haven't even had liver for ages. I basically have had more liver pate in the last, probably last couple of months. It's been more liver pate than anything else. And it's just once every fortnight, more or less. So do you need it? If your body is deficient, that's a different thing. But I think if you've been on a carnivore diet for some time and you've had a lot of organ meats and stuff like that for some time, you usually are pretty good. See, my only issue is eggs. I have to have eggs. I need choline. I can't endogenously. My synthesis is very poor, and I can't convert between methionine to choline to folate. So I have an issue there. I have a genetic issue. So I need eggs, which will give me some folate. I need some folate sources like liver now and then, and I need to support that other pathway with I can convert a bit, but not a lot in terms of to folate. But I do have an impediment on the methionine side of things to support the other methylation pathway. So I do need to basically, but that's a very small percentage of the population. It depends on societies. It can be from 2 to 4%. I'm one of those unlucky people. And that's probably why I was able to get fatty liver very rapidly in young age for that reason. So yes. But I would say, yeah, it's not. I don't consider it a priority. I know Bart has his opinions on it. I think that for some people with certain genetic predispositions, it can be useful, but it's a small minority of people. The body is pretty good. If you give it sufficient animal food, meat, the body is really good enzymatically to be able to cut, literally take all these aminos. Remember, all your proteins that you take in, whether they are from organ meats or whatever, they all are broken down to amino acids. So fundamentally, everything's an amino acid. So really, what are you getting from the different foods? You're getting certain, you may get certain types of vitamins and minerals in different compositions. That's what you're really getting. So what you're asking the question is, do I need those extra vitamins and minerals? Depends. It really depends how deficient you are. Most people that have been doing a carnivore diet for some time and consuming some level of fat, they should have more than sufficient. A lot of things go down. Like, I'll give you an example. Thiamine drops by half the requirements. Then things like niacin also is more. You can get more than enough from animal foods. Riboflavin, which is one of the big critical ones, we get massive amounts in animal foods. Not an issue. Muscle, whether you're eating, even if you're not eating, drinking milk, just eating muscle meats, you'll get plenty, as long as you're eating enough, plenty of riboflavin to support energy production. So there's not many things. And when you're actually dealing with just muscle meat, the amount of enzymes and cofactors actually go down, the requirements. So it's not as critical as people make out. The other one is, people say, what about connective tissue? Even there, if you go and take a look at the thing that I've actually done on homocysteine, check that out. It actually shows when you increase in methionine, even infuse methionine into the system. Everybody says, oh, the vegans are the ones that have got the high homocysteine because they've got less methionine. They don't need enough meat. It's the methionine that actually will, in the liver, force the liver to create more cysteine. So people say, oh, you're not going to get enough cysteine. Well, all these other things, the body can actually take other aminos, the essential amino acids, and actually convert them into all these other things, as long as it's got the cofactors. So it is not an issue. Now, you could probably say, I could take some of this and use some of this in a sense, which I would actually reduce the requirement of the body to convert all these sort of things. And that means I could leave that enzymatic path, that extra energy, that ATP energy that the body's creating for other purposes. Yeah, you could say that. That could be potentially useful in a sense. How much, we don't know. Some people think, I don't think it's significant, but some people think that it is. I always say you can get more significant energy directly through to complex 4 from the sun, from UV energy, which will increase by about a third the energy production in the mitochondria by UV directly. So can you get the equivalent by consuming certain cofactors from the organ meats, which basically reduces certain enzymatic activity because you're providing some of that additional stuff so that there's less of conversion requirements. So you get the energy saving is minuscule. How much difference does it make in a lifetime? Maybe it gives you a couple of extra days of life. Maybe. Maybe. Well, nobody knows, So it's really hard, these sort of things, that it's no studies, no, it's all speculative on all grounds. At the end of the day, there are only a very small amount of people that have specific requirements. People who come from an Irish background tend to have very poor carotenoid conversion. Those people should be eating either liver or eggs to get their, retinol. Because there is some retinol in the fat of the animal that you can get, but there's also carotenoids, and they can't really convert a lot of that. So, your requirements may be high for a number of reasons, health reasons and deficiencies or whatever. So there's a lot of different things nuancing, but most other populations don't have that issue. It's the same thing with choline. It's more Europeans, that, Northern Europeans, but even they, if they're getting enough methionine, they don't have the problem because they can do the conversion from methionine to choline to folate. So they don't even need to eat folate or choline. They can just eat muscle meat and they will do the conversion right through, the majority of people. They just need more meat to do that. Or you can basically eat some eggs, some organ meats to basically get those additional micronutrients, and then, methionine can be used for other purposes, maybe driving up more choline for more methylation. And that may be useful as well because it's saving that extra choline for additional methylation, which can be useful, especially if you've come from a sad diet. So that's what I mean, that I view organ meats and stuff like that more important for people who have come from poor diets and need to build up their nutritional stocks, their stores in terms of retinol, their stores in terms of vitamin D, stores in terms, of a number of things. But for most people that have been doing the carnivore diet for some time, Robert, probably less of a requirement. So it does vary. And even if you take a look at, tribal people, they'll cut a bit of liver, share it amongst themselves like a multivitamin. So you can always do something like that. Oh, thanks, Angela. Oops. It's always a hard thing with StreamYard to try and get to the different things. Thank you very much, Angela. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed last night's sort of a get together and all that. I tried asking you, and then you sort of walked away asking whether you wanted to say something. Then you sort of came back and you just wanted to sit back and just listen to the rest of us. That's fine. I mean, there's no pressure in these sort of Zoom sessions. It's just lighthearted, So that's the main thing. And thank you very much. That will go to contributing to the other stuff, because I am going to do a year's subscription, so I can do a bit more regular, that sort of stuff. So I think people did appreciate it. So I said, why not? Now I need to find my spot. That's the downside of the damn thing. Yeah, there it was. Yep, and we will move to the next one. And to the next one. I don't think God has anything to do with disease upset. Yeah, exactly. They're exposed to glyphosate, etc. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things. Well, there are genetics that can happen. Not God, but genetics. I think once he let it go and he allowed evolution, the laws that he set down to basically take hold and give us free will to make our choices and stuff like that. That idiot. Oops. Unfortunately, you had to see that. More nonsense from the Vagunarized crowd. Yes, we've heard all that sort of slogans. You like the taste? Well, if you like the taste, that's good. Tastes like chicken. Oops, just be very careful about the not hitting the Vagoon. Yes, he definitely has. It's where'd he come from? Where has he gone? It's just he's becoming like a disciple of Ray Pete. Really, he's just absolutely lost the damn plot, to say the least. See you, Tracy. She did mention it earlier. She had to go. Cecile, good to see you here. Oh yeah, exactly. They come and go. Some of them are quite nice and respectful, and they want to learn. They want to hear your opinion on certain things and stuff like that. I don't mind actually having a conversation with them, but some of them are just jerks. It shouldn't be called Trevor Jenks. It should be called Trevor Jerk, because that's what he is. Trevor Jenks was the actual troll, but let's call him Jerk. Fighty words, Alex. Fighty words. Yes, he had enough. Oh, yeah, exactly. Well said, Bert. Well said. Yes. Yes, nothing like a bit of glyphosate. Yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Good for the bacteria. Not. Yeah, no, we don't. Well, as I get better known, we will get more. So keep an eye on them. Yeah, that's true. It is. It is. They can be. I don't mind the ones. To be honest, Richard, I don't mind the ones that are respectful. I don't mind having a conversation with them. I'll take my time. Sometimes like that other guy earlier today, he was willing to listen a bit. So he wasn't one of those, complete and utter ideologues. Listen, think about some of this sort of stuff and go away and take a look at it. Maybe we influence him, maybe not. Who knows? But at least he was willing to consider the other side. Most of them are just basically complete and utter deranged ideologues. Do you think vegans will eventually influence law making or ban or restrict access to meat around the world, as Sean Baker has discussed? They are doing. I don't think it's going to go that far. I mean, I do subscribe to Sean. I do like him. I think he's right about a lot of things. He may be right on this, but I doubt it. I don't think you're going to get the majority of the population to go along with it, and a lot of the, we're talking about there's still a minority. What we'll see is basically a further reduction in animal foods. That's what will happen. So animal foods will become more expensive, and there may be some taxes in that regard, but less restrictions, but more taxes. Like we've had soda taxes, and we've had taxes of different sorts, like sugar taxes in some countries. We get a meat tax as a thing. So it will become slightly more restrictive for poorer families, which is not good. They are the ones that actually already have a poor nutrition diet. The last thing they need is actually something worse that would really increase the poor health outcomes amongst those people, the bad as they are. So that's not a good development in that regard. But in terms of Alex, meat and air travel will be taxed. Yeah, it looks like it. The environmental stuff and all this sort of stuff. They're literally targeting everything. In Europe, it's even worse. In parts of North America, it's the same. Australia's sort of holding off. New Zealand's pretty bad as well in that regard with the current government. But it's hard to say how far it's going to go in different countries. It's going to be less likely in the rest of the world. It seems like it's more these sort of effects are more stronger in countries like parts of Western Europe and the English-speaking world. So you're seeing restrictions in Holland, in the Netherlands. As Alex would know, there's a lot of restrictions in the Netherlands, and new policies coming in to restrict animal foods. And you're seeing it in places like Denmark and parts of Scandinavia. So these sort of areas are where a lot of this sort of nonsense is happening, unfortunately. So it's not getting any better. Oh, thanks, Kate. Good to see you here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It will go to the Zoom fund. Need to do the yearly thing. Thanks, Kate. Now, let me find my spot. Yeah, so I think, Robert, that in the short term, probably less likely. In the long term, potentially in certain countries. It won't be a complete restriction of access to meat. It will just be more. They will make it much harder to the cost for a lot of people. Now, for people like myself, it probably won't be an issue money-wise, but for a lot of other people, that are much poorer, yes, it will be. And it will more than likely restrict for those people. And that's where you'll see in the fast food industry things like differential pricing between Beyond Burger and basically, and that means that as a consequence, these sort of people gravitate towards this even higher processed junk food, as I call it, vegan junk food 2.0. So people become even more plant-based than what they are currently. A lot of the middle class is also a bit, they're wokeish to sort of, social credits and all that, because that is very strong within that part of they will gravitate away from these sort of things more. Traditional working class men, probably not. Wealthier individuals, definitely not. They're not stupid, most of them. Well, some of them are, but not a lot of them. Don't even care about this sort of stuff. But there will be restrictions of some sort, but it will be more in terms of pricing and taxes, that the way it will happen, and it will be sold as, carbon credits and carbon offsets and stuff like that. So that's how it'll be sold pretty much. Yes, some countries those policies will be much worse. I think Denmark's actually got a saturated fat tax or something along those lines. So, yes, not a good thing. Thank you, Angela. God, everybody's getting excited today. Thank you very much. The Zoom fund. Thank you. Okay, well, appreciated. Thanks a lot. Yeah, because I bought basically for a month, and then I said, after it was nearly finished, I said, we've had a lot of fun. It's been a lot nice just hanging back and just chatting amongst ourselves and joking and talking about anything that we wanted to, very freely. Anybody could, I tried to hold back on a number of cases. I didn't want to, so give opportunity to some people. Sometimes I can't control myself. I will try and be a bit less, not less involved, but give an opportunity to those who are a bit more, how can I put it, a bit shyer to basically get involved. I tried to pull a few of you in. But anyway, some of you just wanted to listen, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. Yep. Pretty much, yep, and they'll use that. They'll definitely use that. And that's true as well, Cecile. Yeah, exactly. If we basically allow them. How you doing, mate? Yes. I look forward to that tomorrow. I'll be dreaming of Japanese cheesecake tonight. Do you realise that? I got a woof as I came around to your place today, so anyway, get it out of your mind. I've already had my meal. Let's move on. Nobody gets to it. Oh, yes, you're right. God, I forgot all about it. You were right. Oh, the colour has changed. Everything's orangey. Thanks, mate. Looking after my circadian rhythms. Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate it. You're too far away, but by the time it actually gets sent from Melbourne, it'll actually, not be as good. Well, only one can hope. They said 3 days, so we'll see what happens. I actually got a message from work. They actually said that they've given us a whole lot of bloody things, and if this happens, so they've actually sealed off the building. So I'm away for the week, but I was planning to sort of holiday and do a few things, but now that it's going to be a bit more restricted. But they did have, well, you guys win because I'm going to be here more at home, so I'll be doing more YouTube stuff so rather than entertaining myself. So there's a win for you guys, but less of a holiday win for me. But yeah, look, at the moment, I think, Hello Kitty, that they've more than likely, there may be an extension. I did look today. There weren't extra people. It was still those two people, but then again, if there are any new numbers, they'll go crazy again. So we'll see. We'll see what happens on Monday. I'll give you a call anyway. We'll chat about it. But I'll show you the work email that I got as well. Yeah, it's one of those really woke. Oh, God almighty. It's ridiculous. News were displaying new McDonald's plant burger in the UK from Beyond Meat. So I mentioned seed oils, oxidation, aldehydes on many comments. Good one, Bert. Exactly. We need to point out the dangers of this crap, because it is very, very dangerous. I mean, it's bad enough the amount of seed oils. It's about 40% of the diet is now these seed oils. These toxic seed oils are 40% of the average person. The average person, I'm not talking about the majority. There are some people even more than 40%, over 50% of their dietary energy is coming from seed oils. That is bad. That's horrific for their mitochondria. But let alone the oxidative, the damage, the aldehydes ripping off the cell membranes and all the other sort of nasty effects that, and damage to cell walls and the acceleration of senescence. And it's really bad for a lot of people. That's why we're seeing even younger people age much faster or in really bad states. We need to point this out. It's, good on you. I occasionally put these sort of stuff down, even if, look, I find sometimes they actually remove them, which is annoying. But you know what? At least a couple of people may see them and it may get around a bit. Better than nothing. Yeah, it's bloody horrific what they're pushing. Which are the foods that aren't carnivore that you prefer to consume? Well, ice cream, most of the content of ice cream is carnivore in the sense it's cream and all that sort of stuff. It's probably the sugars that are in ice cream that are not parts that are, and I try to limit that anyway nowadays. And the other things would be like pickled cucumbers. So when I go over to Dad's place, he usually will put out the pork. He'll put out pickled cucumbers. And I actually keep pickled cucumbers in my fridge as well. So it's probably one of those things that I do, I do have Vegemite as well in there, which is a yeast type thing. Well, yeast is basically somewhere between an animal. Its cell walls and all that are more like animal rather than plant. It just sort of grows on things. So it sort of doesn't grow in the same way as a plant, but it's probably more like a bacteria in a sense. But I don't consider that clearly a plant, obviously. It doesn't have the cell walls of a plant or anything like that. And so I would say, there's very little. And the only other thing is when I actually get my burgers and bacon from one of the actual outlets in Hobart. So they just basically it's all baked. So there's no seed oils. It's just on a grill. Grilled, and pretty much that has a bit of what has it got? It's got a bit of pepper in there, which and I do use pepper, which is technically a plant. Some of the herbs like rosemary and stuff like that, the oregano, they are basically plants as well. And there's also onions, which are in the burgers themselves. So they're homemade. So he makes them himself. So they've got onions in there and some herbs and spices. So that's basically where I get most of my stuff technically from. The other source would be the occasional alcohol, somebody's birthday or somebody's basically retirement party. That's when only even the guys at work say they usually laugh and think it's a bit of a joke, asking me out to the pub every Friday, and they go, well, I'm not bloody drinking currently. They go, oh yeah, whatever. But I sort of, you can drink a soda. And I said, I don't drink that shit. So, and if I go to a pub, I'm going to drink. I don't go to a pub not to drink. So, So I usually give it a bit of a miss in that regard. So, but anyway, I usually flex off on Fridays like I did this Friday at lunchtime. So I usually go home at 1:00. So I've basically got enough time for 3 days nearly. Actually, I do have for 3 days. It was over 22 hours, so just 7 hours something for us. So I had 3 days worth of flex time. So I took half the actual day, and I'm actually taking another one at the end of this week, and then I'll still basically have about 12 or 13 hours left. So I've got nearly 2 days. So I've got a lot of flex in that regard. I may have to sort of go earlier because otherwise it take an extra day, because there's people away and all that, and I've taken holidays, it's a bit, it's easier to just take half days rather than actually take a whole day. It sort of comes across, there's other people, but I've worked the hours, but it's, it just doesn't come across very, I've got to get rid of that time as well. So before the next month, end of the month, and I'm at the beginning of the month, and I've got shitloads of hours accumulated. I was allowed to transfer it across because I had to do a number of things, training and a number of other things that we had. And so I couldn't take the days to bring down my time. So I was allowed to carry it across, which was really funny, because usually I'm scrambling at the end of the month to try and actually bring it back down to 10 hours. So, yeah, funny. Anyway, but that's basically what it's not much that in terms of plants that I consume nowadays. It's just the occasional thing, so since Dad flogs it out, and I've just sort of got used to it. And it's a fermented thing. I actually enjoy pickled cucumbers, so always have, so don't mind them. Yeah, I know. I thought you threw that out, you bad girl. I need to give you a spanking for that. God almighty, you still got that. You said you would throw it out. Well, I did say you could give it to Edward. Why didn't you give it to Edward then? Robert, Big Carbo has far more influence on government than vegans ever will. Yeah, exactly. Vegans are unwitting message spreaders. Exactly. That's exactly it, Paul. It's the big food companies that are pushing this stuff because they're big margins, big profit margins. Always has been. This is why it's very hard, because these people are basically pushing kibble and there are big margins. A steak, there's not much profit. There's far more profit in Beyond Burgers, far more profit in kibble, because a lot of it's subsidized as well, especially in the US. There's big, massive subsidies. I think, who was it? There was the food politics. There was one thing that Lustig was on recently, and there was another lady that was actually talking about the food politics, and she went back and actually found a lot of the information for the Great Western Sugar Company. The Great Western Sugar Company, I think in Oklahoma. I may be wrong. It's a while now that I've watched the video, and she talks about this Great Western Sugar Company that actually went bankrupt, and they actually gave all their documents to the local library. The problem is their lawyers didn't go through thoroughly to make sure, and there was some really doozy stuff. And it showed that they actually used similar tactics like the actual tobacco industry, hiding information, knowing quite clearly that refined sugar, caused a lot of health problems. And they actually wrote it out really in detail. And even the Sugar Association in America, it was basically, they had documents, things that they were writing about, studies. They were paying specific researchers to do dodgy research. They had people on the pay. Actually, a lot of the actual academics working at Harvard, the medical nutritional school, where Walter Willett and all that, they're all up to their eyeballs. These people were getting paid years back by these people. This is before the food guidelines had come out. This was back in the 50s and 60s. These people were paying Harvard to do dodgy studies, to basically demonize fat and venerate or at least take off the actual chopping board sugar. which some people started because there were some articles at the time that actually were talking about problems about sugar. And there was some, there was that British academic also that was talking about it. And so they basically realized, and these are the people that are corrupting, they're buying politicians, they're buying researchers to do dodgy studies. They were doing it back then. And all this documentation was that, and she was talking about it. So I'll have to find that video and actually pin it so you guys can go away and actually look at it. And she talks about it and some of the research. I think she's got a book or something where she goes into detail. So if anybody wants to get it and get more detail if they're interested, you'd find out how the sugar industry really fabricated and really made up studies, paid studies on the behest of the sugar industry or the Great Sugar Corporation, I believe in Oklahoma. Your mind can't get away from the alcohol, can it? Don't give her ideas, Richard. Alcohol beverages. Bloody hell. Uncle Harry is in the same boat. YouTube was better than with cursing. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, it's sort of I struggle. I know eventually a lot of my live streams are going to get demonetized. Eventually the AIs will go through. I've already seen a number of my videos being demonetized for that reason, because sometimes I can't control my mouth. Yes. Or get really annoyed with something and I throw an expletive that immediately the AI reacts to. Yeah. Think of me, Robert, on the other side. Being completely demonetized eventually, because that's in the cards. When I look at all my videos, I think of very few videos that will actually stand up. So, yeah. So I'm just enjoying the current benefits of being over 1,000 subs, but once the AI goes through it's not going to leave me with a lot of monetization. Let's put it that way. Yes. Yeah. So when there is a delay on a message appears, there's a moderator show hide prompt. That's normally what happens. We got you covered, Robert. Yep, exactly. Yeah, it usually comes up. Sometimes if people don't see it, somebody eventually responds to it. It's just basically YouTube just gets triggered with certain words. It is pathetic, but anyway, what can we do? They should have, it's my channel. My moderators and myself should be the ones moderating and determining what actually gets put on, not them. So it's like them coming into my business. They provide me the platform, which is basically the shopping center. I have the shopping center outlet in the shopping center. I don't pay rent, but I advertise for them. But what I do inside my shopping center, myself, and how I regulate, what people can say, the interactions with people or whatever, is my business, not theirs. So on that proviso, they are basically, this would be unacceptable in the real world. Why should it be acceptable in the digital world? Who? We talking about somebody? Is that the guy that Robert Big Carb or whatever? Is that the guy you're talking about, Alex? Oh, that's the other guy you're talking about. Oh, yeah, we were talking about earlier. Yep, gotcha. I don't think it's moderators. Yeah, look, the filter is the actual. Yep. They're so colourful, aren't they, Robert? Don't thank him. G'day, Gary. Good to see you last night. Actually, it was good for you to be there. Appreciate you turning up. And thanks for your own insights. That was really interesting as well. You provide us with some information about low-grade type effects of, the sort of particles that can actually be cleaved off when it comes to vaccines and all that. That was interesting. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. It's a bit of an insight. There's at the moment, there's a lot of nonsense out there, and it's nice to get some really real-world experience in that regard, even though it's unfortunate that you're pressured into all this nonsense as well, which is unfortunate. I bet it did. You're one of my crowd. Llama, you're late. Where the hell are you? It comes with a ketchup. I could see you with a ketchup bottle. It's what we need in lockdown, plus eggs too. Exactly. I did get 3 cartons of eggs. Yes, just before the lockdown, 3 cartons of eggs and shitloads. I forgot about the eggs. So I've got shitloads of eggs, shitloads of meat. I probably bought more meat. I couldn't actually stuff it. My whole fridge is now just stuffed. It's ridiculous. I can't get anything else in. Actually, I did take out that stuff, and that only made up a bit of space. So just, yes. But I think I went overboard in my shopping. Yes. Just in case, the 3 days becomes like a whole week. You know what they're like. And I didn't want to have to go into the damn shopping centres, put on a mask and all these, jumping through all their bloody stupid hoops. It's just easier just to get the stuff and not have to worry about it for the rest of the week. Do my own shit around my place. I feel better with some organ meats. If you do, not a problem, particularly liver. I mostly just eat occasional organs. Look, some people have high requirements for retinol. They can't convert carotenoids, and so they do feel better with the liver or more eggs or stuff like that to get the retinol. So I have a 32% reduction, but it's not substantial. I can still convert a lot of carotenoids. But some people have severe, especially if they come from the British Isles, and in particular from coastal areas, their ancestry, or from Ireland, or Iceland as well, tend to have much lower levels of conversion. So, and they do much better with liver. That's true. So it depends. There's a lot of those little differences. So if it works for you, don't change it. There's no need. When flattery as a young man, I found a pack of chicken gravy makes everything palatable. Yeah, yeah, that's true. We did use that. Yeah, there was different things like that. People did use. DC, good to see you, mate. Yeah, thanks for being around last night. It was good to see you there. Appreciate everybody who turned up. It was about 24 of us, which was good. DC was quite involved in the conversation. I actually really like the taste of grass-fed liver now as well. All I need is salt and pepper on it, and I'm good. You should try rosemary, and you should try putting it in milk and putting it into a bowl and putting it in the fridge and letting it absorb the rosemary and then baking it in thin strips. Try that, mate. I think you'll be hooked, believe me. It's a little Greek thing. The Environmental Party in Norway have in their program to halve the consumption of meat, which would cut consumption of animal foods from 35% to 17%. Yeah, it's horrific, Cecile. It's horrific. I mean, as I said, most people now, we used to once consume 2/3 animal foods and 1/3 plant foods. Back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, there's sort of a transition in the 70s. Now it's the other way around. America is basically up to like 70 plus 75%. They're already down to 25%, the US, in terms of, meat animal product consumption, very low. Most Europeans are still at about a third to 40%, depending on the European country. But, once you get into the sub 20%, you're really getting into area levels like, even beyond the US. So you can see you will see an escalation in disease. That's the reality. Especially a lot of the things that are being replaced are full of seed oils and refined sugars. So yeah, expect to see the health deterioration in Norway escalate if that ever gets through, that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. But at the moment, that's the direction, unfortunately, with a lot of this. And I was looking funny at the meat recently too. Prices are up by 30%, and packages weighing 1 kilo are supposed to be a lot of meat and labelled extra large. Where are you located? XXL. We don't get that in Tasmania. Meat down here hasn't really changed in price significantly. So our prices are very much quite stable in this part of Australia anyway. So I can't talk about other parts. But down here, it's fairly stable, which is good for now. I don't know what the future holds. That's a different kettle of fish. But currently, it's not too bad. But some places, it depends also. I know New Zealand, they're lamb, because they've got bigger percentages of sheep over there. And so in terms of ratio with humans, and so they tend to have, their lamb is even slightly cheaper than ours in Australia, except Tasmania. Tasmania is competitive compared to the other states because we've got a smaller population, bigger production of lamb in Tasmania. So that lamb is still, you can get it fairly cheap in Australia, in Tasmania in particular. So we're more similar to New Zealand rather than the rest of Australia. But still, in relative terms, it's still cheaper in that regard. And I have to say, I do bloody love lamb. So as I said, pork and lamb are my two favourites. It's not beef, I'll be honest. I don't mind beef now and then, but I'd rather have lamb over beef. And pork, it's the two is, I like the taste of both. It's just the deuterium side wins in the terms of pork. How many times I have pork in the week compared to lamb. But I do love lamb. And I do like also fermented lamb as well. So, yes, that is nice as well. Harry, another hyperbole. I have a sensation that one day very near animal products are going to be almost banned. But even true that the vegans are decreasing. What are your thinking about this? Well, I think I pretty much covered it, what I think is going to happen. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be that bad in the near term. 20 years down the track, no idea, mate, no idea. But if you increase the cost of something, you could expect production of that to drop and to become a specialty item. As a specialty item, it will become more expensive, more prohibitive for most people, and you could say you won't be able to buy it in the supermarket. You'll be buying it in specialty stores. So that is a possibility in the next 15 years. Probably not right now, but there is that risk. If you take a look, if you go back, I would say to people, there are some videos on YouTube. And if you go and take a look, Mike, and say historical supermarkets, and go through and look at the supermarkets of different eras, what they had inside as they go through and they show you things, you'll be shocked at the difference. So in 15 years, yes, there could be where, foods that were once part of the supermarket are now in the specialty stores. That could happen also with meat, potentially. That's the worrying, and become way more expensive than what it is today. So, which would automatically restrict access to a lot of people, or limit to occasionally having it as a treat. Dr. Porn Yogan Nathan, posted a study on Instagram, 2 groups similar calories, isocaloric, one group 14% protein after 39, the other 39%, 39% protein had a negative energy balance. Interesting. Yeah, it depends. I'd have to look at the study in that regard, and what some of how it was designed in particular. So you'd have to look at the fat composition, the carbohydrate composition, and stuff like that. Are they engaging the Randall cycle? Are they not engaging the Randall cycle? There's so many damn variants when you're looking at that between lean meat and the other factors. So, because remember, you will have a very low Randall cycle activation if you've got, like when Walter Kempner was doing like 96%, 4% protein and all that. Once you get below 15%, you have less engagement, even if you throw a whole lot of carbohydrates in. So there can be a lot of variance. I'd have to look to see what exactly is happening before I make a comment on the study. Because usually sometimes you do find adjusted data, and that's really gives away, okay, they're manipulating this sort of stuff. It's not exactly what they actually found, but what they thought they found or believe they found. It's sometimes, but it could be the case. Interesting, but it's not something that I get too wound up about in that regard. So yeah, protein does cause satiety in that regard. If you're going to consume more protein, you're going to get less energy in, but you'll get it from your body. So in that regard, so I mean, their notion of negative energy balance is a completely different kettle of fish in the way we view it. If you can access fat, there is no energy balance. Your metabolic rate won't go down. It only goes down if a kibble diet is increasing, insulin and preventing hormone-sensitive lipase from being activated. That's the sort of stupid studies they make to sort of make out, you're going to have this effect and your metabolic rate's going to come down. No, your kibble eating is raising insulin, and if you're not getting enough energy of any sort, then you basically can't access fat around your tummy. Hormone-sensitive lipase cannot be activated. Obviously, you will be in a negative energy balance. But is that due to basically what to the protein, or is it due to the carbohydrate you threw in with that meal? So it's a lot of this. They make these studies deliberately. They design them in a certain way to get. They are designed specifically by the food industry. Let me put it this way. When I saw the sort of documents of the Great Sugar Corporation and the amount of bullshit studies that they engineered, Coca-Cola Company the same and all that, some of the stuff has come out, you realize quite clearly they deliberately designed these things to either demonize fat or demonize protein. And they completely ignore the Randall cycle, completely ignore the new hormonal system. What are the substrates and how they're affecting the hormonal system? They're ignoring that. These are just nonsensical studies to push a narrative, a certain thing. It's all about keeping that metabolic rate up. Give them carbs. Do you know what animal actually runs one of the highest metabolic rates? And it tends to be more an omnivore, very hard to put in ketosis, and will eat a lot of carbohydrates like grains and stuff like that. The rat. That's why they use it in rat study. They use a lot of rat studies for nutrition to push their narrative. Well, rats don't live very long because they run very high metabolic rates. Most centenarians are running much lower metabolic rates. Get it? Even when you're not running a very high metabolic rate, you can still activate hormone-sensitive lipase with low insulin, push out more free fatty acids and provide energy, also metabolic water from that fat to through the Krebs cycle, and basically, it's irrelevant. This whole thing about metabolic rate is irrelevant unless you're burning calories unless you're oxidizing calories from carbohydrates. That's the reality. And all the studies are designed around energy balance in terms of carbohydrates. That's why they're irrelevant to a carnivore diet or low carb diet or whatever, or an ancestral diet. So, yeah, it's bullshit, Bert. Absolute excrement. Too much propaganda. Exactly. Meat is bad. Yeah. It's only been the nitrogen 15 in the solidified in the bones of humans for millions and millions of, or thousands and thousands of years, and other hominins for millions and millions of years. That basically tells us a complete different story. But will crackpots look at this? No, they won't, because they've got a propaganda story to sell for, yeah, like that other idiot that turned up earlier. DJ Projectus, good to see you, mate. I'll go hunting for my food if I have to. Me too. I won't let these vagoons destabilize public health with their peasant food. Yep, exactly my sentiment. Lock and load. Get out there and yes, those wallabies are looking really good. Yeah, good idea. That's one thing I do miss hunting. I haven't done it for a while. Good morning, Angela. Nice. Good morning, people. Pleased to meet so many at the Zoom. Hope Harry encourages to repeat the venture. Yes, I will. I've actually said that. That's why some of you, I think, yeah, that was early anyway. Yeah, I'm way behind. And then you responded with some dosh. Thank you. Yes. It will become a regular thing once a month. I may even do it even more. I do still need some weekends to basically relax as well, to see my friends and sort of chill out and stuff like that. So, I do still have a life, sort of. I blame Bart K for everything. Anyway, you guys should be thanking Bart K. No one who knows we would offer me a microphone. Yeah, or probably had a lucky escape. I missed the invitation because I'm a slow Luddite. That's okay. I hope the instructions were clear. It wasn't very complicated. I made sure that I used the method where you can click on, and even if you don't have the application, it will come up. You can. There are browser options further down there as well. I just prefer people use that link to get the application installed, and then because the application seems more stable. Sometimes people can have certain like browser issues, and they can go really haywire. So that's why I use that method, and I primarily that link just in case, because things can play up, unfortunately. But if people have got good browser stability and all that, they could probably just use the link via the browser. So that's the other option. Ulcers are bacteria. And yeah, they don't really do much. Believe me, they do not need. You just need to increase the acidity. Nothing like a few HCl and taurine to deal with those little buggers, and some beneficial bacteria like the Reuteri that actually fights against and reduces H. pylori. So go and check my videos, Llama. You haven't checked my videos. You should on this subject matter. You don't need honey for that purpose. Old wives' tale. Oh, yes, he's hanging around. Maybe he'll learn something. You never know. He may learn something. If he goes and checks that homocysteine one that I tear a triple asshole into his favourite vagoonerized doctor, McGregor, he actually sets the stage perfectly. He buries himself in the excrement of veganism. He should go and check why meat is important, why methionine is important, for the methylation cycle, and not fear meat. Very important if you want to bring your homocysteine levels down and you don't want to die an early and very poor life, like that 40-year-old veganerized person who was part of the, I think it was some sort of naturopath or something like that. He was also in the Vegan Society of the USA, and he died at 40 from cardiovascular of heart attack. And basically, McGregor says all these nonsensical stuff, and I point out all the incorrect and fallacies that he has. That guy was also taking like plant sterols, so which is a plant cholesterol, and he was deliberately doing that to lower his natural cholesterol even further. And as a consequence, you end up, when you take a lot of these sort of as a supplement, you end up absorbing more of them. They get into your red blood cells and they stiffen them. They can't elongate into the narrow blood, blood vessels, which means, and some of those narrow blood vessels are in your heart, which means they become hypoxic. That means those blood vessels where the red blood cells can't get in, what happens is the tissue in there starts undergoing necrosis. And that was happening in his heart. And that was probably the problem, what eventually killed this guy. I can't prove it, but that is the strong likelihood, because I've seen other research in rats that shows the same thing happening. So, but yes, that's veganerized, gone mad about cholesterol. Yes, that's what happens to you. You end up dead at the age of 40. Oh, no drama. You could take your time. Oh, yes, exactly. Well, we had no, it wasn't it was 6 hours, to be slightly over 6 hours. Could have started earlier. Unlikely, but it would help him. He'd get a lot of the micronutrients. He'd get the DHA and EPA for his brain without all the aldehydes and all the other crap from the supplements he's getting. And also, he would get basically a lot of the trace minerals, and a lot of minerals that are very high in the animal foods that he doesn't get. And he'd feel less guilty as well. Yes, you're right, Robert. Stop promoting honey. Do you have long-term studies on the adeno viral vaccines? No, we don't, because we've never done them. We only have short-term studies that were done as trials for people, but we don't have now in terms of nothing for. We do have 270. So if you go onto PubMed and type adeno viral vector, and you will get about 275 studies. I did Google it in one of my videos and actually showed. A lot of them are actually for children. What happens is children usually that have got weak immune systems for a number of reasons, probably largely to do with the low vitamin D status of mothers nowadays. And what happens is they can actually get these adenoviruses, human adenoviruses. These are the ones, the chimp ones, and they tend to create a lot of clotting factors in the children because they've got a very poor regulated immune system, and usually it actually can be fatal to children. So it's well known in the literature. It's about 275 studies from last count when I basically searched on PubMed. So if you go there, AG, you can find out that sort of stuff. That's the only research we have. There's no other research. It has to do with human adenoviruses and with young children with immature immune systems and all that. So that's a sort of at that time. So it didn't surprise me. That's why I said from the beginning when I heard about adenovirus, I said this is going to create clotting factors. So it did not surprise me in that regard. So, and it's the same thing with the autoimmunity and all the other stuff that we talk about with the mRNA technology. Again, from oncology. We're extrapolating from other fields where this technology is being used. Now, there could be other effects as well that we don't know of, because maybe some variations we've seen with different varied, like the Johnson & Johnson had some neurological issues where, for instance, the mRNA technology used by Moderna had effects more like heart inflammation and stuff like that compared to some of the others. So there are variations, and it may be the formulation, the way they're designed, the way they're prepared and stuff like that, slight variations in the strain that they actually used of the different variant that they used as a source for their spike may also be a related issue. As I said, we will only know AG after this is why they do vaccine studies. They do research for 5 to 7 years to work out the risk groups and the effects that it may have on specific type of genetics or people in the community, certain types, whether they are very mild or very bad, and then they will decide, then the FDA or the TGA in Australia or whatever will decide whether they allow it or not. That never happened. This is emergency. It's an emergency. We need to put them out. And we're indemnifying you from any potential risks. As I said, since we don't know who could be or may not be affected, you're playing Russian roulette. You want to play? Bzzz. It's up to you. Not up to me to tell you or anyone else, but that is the potential risk, as I've always pointed out. I always stick to the science. I can't tell you things that we don't have information on. I can only extrapolate. I can't speculate. I can extrapolate from previous research in this field, whether it's in the oncology field or the early child, field or whatever. Only in the neonatal type. Only in those areas I can actually talk about these related issues and extrapolate from that. And we've already seen some of these effects, so we can actually, with some confidence, say, yep, there are issues related to this. How widespread? Since nothing has been recorded, nothing is being studied, we don't know. But I hear a lot of people saying, my next door neighbor, my friend, myself, or this person or that person. And it seems to be more than just a few people. And then other people are quite sick anyway. So their own, poor diet and all that, and their health situation, they're already feeling all these aches and pains and all that from their poor diet. So any additional aches and pains from these vaccines, really one is masking the other in a sense. So how wide it is, who knows? There's no research. This is recent stuff. Nobody's done the research. We can only extrapolate from the past, from research within the oncology field and the neonatal sort of field, the early. So that's it. That's all we've got. So, and that's what I'm basing most of my arguments on. Nothing else. Yes, that was that comment. Good to see you here, Kate, and thanks for the contribution for the fund. Oops. What difference are there between Eastern and Northwestern European histories that affect their ancestral diet? I think I covered that earlier with the things like retinol, things like choline. Those sort of factors are the key ones. There's not much else different because they do have a lot of commonalities in terms of Indo-European ancestry. It's just slight effects, marginal effects, even Southern Europeans. I mean, when you're looking at the differences in a lot of the SNPs, we're talking about 10% differences or 15% differences. It's not massive. Like in the Chinese population, choline is their endogenous production. You get something like 76%. Massive difference. So where in the European it is just mild difference. It's usually coastal people that will have most of the differences in terms of retinol, things of that sort. In particular, choline and retinol, the big ones. But it's usually coastal people because they had a rich diet in those substances and those things got down-regulated. It's just simple as that. Does anyone know? Yeah, taken. People are talking about around November. So, yeah, still not quite clear in that regard. So it is November. In Australia, it's 15,000 doses that were actually purchased. It was supposed to be 50-something million, and now the initial purchase is 15 million only, and they bought additional Pfizer for their booster shots. So, yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. I don't know yet. Bit disappointed they didn't buy the whole 50 million. So pretty much peeved off. Less Australia, New Zealand, once again, united against the idiocracy of our current leaderships. Yes. The more people I actually talk to, even my next door neighbour, an old lady, she's in her 70s, and, we early 70s anyway, we sort of chatted. And she said the same thing, and her daughter and all that, but said, you can't really talk out. Everybody's scared to talk out. I think there's more people that realise this is really nonsensical. It's gone too far, a bit over the top, but are just too scared to, because, the mob, they're fearing the mob reaction. And that's really what's happening at the moment. But as the mob reaction starts to dissipate, it may be easier for people to voice their, without as much fear of being blasted. Oh, yes, please hit the thumbs up. And all the goons, hit the thumbs down. The AI will love you, and I will love you as well. When flatting as a young man, what the heck is flatting? Also, make sure that masculine llamas are, but it wasn't expected you to be a dude. What does Richard say? Flatting, living in a small apartment with others while a student. Yep, bearded mouse. There, you got your answer. Let's move on. Richard, that's why I love you. Always with the best remarks. Thank you again, Angela. Zoom Fund, yes. Thank you very much. Fluffy Rainbow, good to see you here. Always. Already, who did I miss? I had to see off my beloved sis. That's fine, family comes first. Hope you are behaving, Mr. H. Never fluffy rainbows. Richard's trying to keep me under control. That's true. With Blinky being away, he did pop into he actually did pop in. He had an excuse. He upgraded his machine and he couldn't turn on his camera. Do we believe him, Richard? No. He had a vegan he left, otherwise the usual. Exactly. Harry, any thoughts on when I eat eggs, I get merely a few little white dots? I did actually mention that you basically should. Remember last time you actually asked me that question again? I actually answered that question. I actually said you may have a sensitivity to withdraw and actually, or still some sort of dysbiosis. So, yes. Just go back to my original. I did say a few other things. Got to show us the softer cheese from IJ. Actually, I do have it. Hold on. I did actually buy it. That's it. And that little piece there, just this little quantity here, which is 112 grams, 112 grams, which is about 3.6 ounces, costs $8, $7.95. So it's not cheap, let's put it that way. There's more of my pate. So, yeah, more of that. Oops. And that there's the lower deuterium water from the French Alps. So it's 1.5 litres. Oops. I'll put it over there for the time being. Yeah, so that's the water that I usually get, and I usually use that for my coffees. So I forgot about my coffee. And that's much because I don't really consume tap water, only at work. Got no option. But that was a cheap. It's not cheap. There's a couple of other cheeses as well. There was another one, another soft one, but they didn't have it. So I checked and I go, okay. So next time if they have that, I'll grab some of that as well. That is extra soft. The other one, it literally, it's sort of like you touch it and it sort of just moves. It's got no structure. It's literally falling apart. It's so creamy, very high in fat. Doesn't have a lot of protein. It's just like a cheese, fat bomb. But that's pricey as well. It's actually pricier than that. So I do buy it occasionally because I really like it and all that. But it's, you can't buy that sort of stuff. It'll cost you, just buying a couple of pieces of cheese will actually end up costing you $100. You can buy plenty of steak for that. So you got to be reasonable. Oh yeah, the glass. Yes, I'm still behind, aren't I? Bloody, I don't realise how behind I am. Anyway, Randall Cycle Cake, sort of. Well, not this one. Actually, no. This one is actually carnivore, low carb, so it's not a problem. Specifically, some of the others that I've had at birthday parties have been quite different. Oh, shame the vegan had to go, but perhaps he didn't have his manners at hand exactly precisely. Like the one in the morning was very respectful, a very nice fellow. Was reasonable, asked questions, was interested to learn and hear my opinion on some things. Not a problem. But, when people come out and start using nasty sort of language and just single slogans, like they're on a campaign or something, they're just trolls. Vegan trolls, idiots. Harry, does Mary have any data on the cholesterol levels of tribes she visited? No, she doesn't. There is research out there from George V. Mann and many others, but it's irrelevant. Cholesterol, whether it's high, low, or whatever, it's your genes that regulate it. So it's completely and utter irrelevant in that regard. Is it oxidized? When you're actually eating an animal-based diet, your LDL tends to be, let me put it this way, the lipoproteins, because cholesterol is cholesterol. There is no good or bad cholesterol. Cholesterol is a waxy, fatty material, and that is it. Whether it's in a HDL, an LDL, a VLDL, it's the same stuff. And it can either be free cholesterol or esterified with fatty acids. So that's basically it. So the question is it combined in an esterification with seed oils or saturated fats? Completely different one with the other. One will be highly reactive with aldehydes and primary and secondary oxidative products damaging the LDL. The other won't, will be stable and will keep it nice and in the sweet spot. So it depends in the esterification as well. Then on the other hand, also is that LDL, the alpha type, the A type, which is, when you're eating a low carbohydrate diet, that's what you tend to get. You don't get the small, dense type, which have circulated for far longer, haven't been cleared out of the system. And the reason why they haven't been cleared out of the system is simple. They haven't been cleared out of the system. Even the small, dense LDL are not really bad. They are bad for this reason. I'll explain. This is what they haven't explained to you. Again, ignorance. When you have less circulating HDL, you need HDL to provide, it's the ApoE, which provides both to the chylomicron and, these are signaling, through the ApoE in order to basically go back into the liver through those LDL type receptors, lipoprotein receptors in the liver. So that's the role, a big role of, and moving around cholesterol between the other lipoproteins and itself of HDLs. And the ApoE plays a big role in that. I've talked about it in one of my chats with Pim. Go and check it out. It's in my playlist where chats with Pim, and I go through and cover it properly. But if you've got, let's say, a diet which is a kibble-based diet, you will tend to have much lower HDL. As a consequence, you will have longer circulating LDL, and they will become much more small, dense over time because of their longer resident time within the bloodstream. But is this a problem? It only becomes a problem because there's sugar in there as well. And what does sugar do? Glycate the surface. The more glycation, like with, especially how do you know that it's a higher glycation of LDL? Well, simple. When you look at basically a H1, an A1C sort of on red blood cells, for instance, you'll find that it's got more sugar molecules on it. That will tell you that basically there is more glycating factor in the bloodstream, and high sugar in the bloodstream for longer. That in a low fat diet will mean that those LDL will be more glycated. So they're more prone to basically derangements or other problems and interacting with the endothelium. When they're slightly larger, and we're talking about nanometers here, minuscule, it's just, we call them pattern A and pattern B. In the pattern B, they're not really a problem. It's because they tend to basically, due to the low HDL, more resident time. So they tend to be glycated in that sort of environment of high kibble diet. And then they're more stickier. The whole reason for their pericellular matrix around these lipoproteins and the actual endothelium, which gets deranged from a lot of sugar because it sticks on these places and actually reduces that negative charge, so they can actually repel each other, so they're not sticking, less stickiness. That's the problem. And that's how some of these problems arise from very high levels of sugar. Add the oxidation products and the aldehydes from the seed oils and you exacerbate the problems. So it's not the LDL it's not, the pattern B isn't atherogenic. it's only more glycated. That's when it becomes problematic. Nobody explains this to you. I don't know why, but that's what is happening, because that's the sort of environment it actually originates in. It's never been LDL. It's only what else is in the bloodstream, and inside the LDL, which is seed oils, and outside sugar. That combination, the standard American diet, will basically really cause a lot of these problems. So, yes. But no, she hasn't, because that is very costly. She just did a lot of like blood sugar tests and also ketones there. So she took a lot of ketone strips with her, and she basically did all the Messiah close to 1 millimole continuously. The only person she found with high blood sugars was the Hadza chief, not the Hadzas themselves, the other tribal guys, the hunters that she went out with, but the actual chief. And why? She actually explained it. He basically had interaction with a lot of tourists, and tourists basically gave him a lot of sweets. That's why he had very high blood sugar levels, So, and zero ketones for that reason. So, what do you think if you go back to Henry VIII? Who was engaging the Randall cycle? You think the peasant was, who was basically having undernutrition in terms of energy? No, they weren't engaging the Randall cycle. It was the wealthy. Today in the modern world with automation and everything, we all can eat like kings of the past. That is why we're all engaging the Randall cycle and why we're all sick. So, yes, very, very bad outcomes in that regard. G'day, Jonathan. Yes, hope you're enjoying it. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. You did apologize. So, God, how far down? God, is that how far behind I am? Bloody hell. Oops. Oh, thank you, Angela. Have to go. We'll listen back. Looking forward to all you are doing during lockdown. Thank you. Appreciate it. So thanks for all the contributions. Take care, and we'll chat later. Hope to see you at the next Zoom session as well. Yeah, let me find the other spot. God, I'm way behind, aren't I? Oh, yes, I know. Please don't make a comment, Richard. God, am I that behind? God almighty. Piss poor effort on my side at the moment. It's hard to keep up. Hard to keep up. Yes, exactly. Looking forward to it. I'll be dreaming Japanese cheesecake tonight. Exactly. And that's the main thing. Yep. You're welcome. I did cover that in the previous one, AG. So, yep. That also, it does help. The lactobacillus type strains do help with improving store formation as well. So, anyway, do you? No, you don't. Depends what I say. There's a few things that I'd say that you don't. Let's move on. Any thoughts on why so many infants and children have allergy reactions to dairy and eggs? Usually because they have a lot of gut issues because their mothers have been eating a very poor diet. That's the reality. These kids have high gut permeability. When you're born, you have gut permeability. But you're supposed to get a lot of things like lactoferrin and other things that are able to deal with the lectins. So the whole purpose is, if you look back in history, we consumed in Europe some grains and stuff like that in the Swiss Alps and other areas, Zea breeding Greece and other things like that. But people consumed a lot of raw dairy. And that raw dairy dealt with lectins both in eggs and many other things. So it bound them and got rid of them. we do not consume raw dairy anymore to deal with those sort of things. And children have gut permeability issues because that's how the gut is. It hasn't sealed when you're very young, and usually takes longer for a lot of kids, which can create more reactivity because, again, poor vitamin D. Low vitamin D, low fat soluble vitamins does mean, from the research that I've seen, it slows down the level of, the mucosal barriers being tightened, tight junctions. So, very important. Saturated fats actually improved tight junctions and DAO production. So there's monounsaturated fat, which you get in animal foods, plus in olive oil as well. But, in that regard, fatty acids are essential for DAO production in that regard. Now, you can get actual DAO that's formed in the kidneys from a kidney supplement. That's true as well. But at the end of the day, you can also get from the fatty acids as well. So, but it requires enzymes in that case. So yes. Yeah, again, it's a dietary thing, mate. It's a dietary thing. A lot of this sort of stuff. I used to have a severe dandruff, very severe dandruff on a kibble diet. And it took some time, even in a low-carb diet, some time to basically clear it out. Biotin plays a big role, and that's in eggs and liver. So sometimes people need more biotin. They also need things like MK4, really important. Niacin is really important for the skin. It actually heals the skin. So it's not only healing the skin from damage from UV radiation, but it heals from a lot of dermatitis type related things. Also the fat soluble vitamins that regulate those sort of, where you get certain dermatitis, keratosis, and all these sort of strange sort of growths on the skin. That's also regulated. It's a collagen sort of derangement that also is regulated by fat soluble vitamins, plus sulfur. Most people in traditional societies that are rich sulfur diets. Most animal foods like eggs, like meats, are rich amino acids like methionine, rich sulfur amino acids. So taurine, sulfur amino acid. So sometimes, oxalates can actually deplete. There's a lot of factors and other lifestyle factors in the environment that can deplete sulfur, including, some pathogens in the environment. Poor diets like refined carbohydrates and refined oils, there's basically next to no sulfur, and they do also deplete heavily. So many people coming into the carnivore diet are already heavily depleted in sulfur. And so I usually recommend supplementation like taurine and MSM for at least a couple of months to get their sulfur levels up. So there's a lot of factors and all that. So I used to have severe dandruff. I don't anymore. It's gone completely. So it makes a difference. And I even have some so-called genetic predisposition. Yes, another one of those bloody... Why am I cursed with so many genetic... Anyway. Who had 800,000 horses slaughtered, whipping out... This was in the Romanian communist time in 1957. Out ranches, eating away tails and cows, and carbon economy makes me sick to the stomach. Okay. Interesting. Maybe. I don't know. I've got no idea. Haven't even heard of the story before. So horses actually, Napoleon actually slaughtered horses for scurvy, to deal with scurvy, because animal flesh does have vitamin C. Who would have known? But it does. Okay, so one was more important than the other. Still, it's from what I hear, it's a good source of meat, a good source of vitamin C as well, and many other nutrients. So, you know, at least they weren't being fed kibble, and they were being fed meat. It's a different source, but still, horses were eating too much grass, probably. The cows couldn't. Yeah, another thing, feral horses as well. Yeah, I know we have a feral um, camel issue in Australia. Yes, they stuff up the water holes and all sorts of things. So yeah, so I can understand why sometimes some governments may do this sort of stuff. It's a bit radical, but 800,000 is quite horrendous amount. Yes. Anyway, plenty of meat for people, I can tell you. Would have fed a lot of people. So, Harry, how much chemicals and hygiene affects the microbiome? Quite a bit, they can. They can have negative effects on beneficial bacteria. And a lot of the pesticides, glyphosate in particular, as I've talked about, is a well-known Monsanto. Now it's owned by Bayer, but Monsanto basically have a patent for glyphosate in terms of antibiotic effects. And it's in everything. You know, Roundup is in basically everything, and it has an antibiotic effect. So if you're ingesting that sort of stuff, whether in the food or, you know, through respiration or whatever, that's going to cause you problems with your gut microbiome. And I think that a lot of the gut microbiome issues, while heavy fiber rich foods, which we don't have a cecum, does cause a lot of what I call tears into the actual gut lining, which are damaging, collagen damaging, and we don't have enough reparative fat soluble vitamins and all that. The other stuff, like the imbalances in the gut microbiome and the inflammation from that, that's more coming from the pesticides, in particular glyphosate. And I think that's where the imbalance, because the pathogenic bacteria seem to cope much better. What they do is, when it comes to all antibiotics, including glyphosate, what they do is they tend to create like a shield around them and protect themselves. They're very much better at that compared to beneficial bacteria. Beneficial bacteria never had to fight, because generally when you eat an animal-based diet, you create a more acidic environment. And so in that sort of environment, beneficial bacteria survive very comfortably. They don't have an issue. So they've never developed very strong defenses. Well, they never had to deal with antibiotics and glyphosate. We never evolved with those things. So when these things came into the picture, they just didn't have the defense. Where the pathogenics were always being attacked by the immune system and all that, had to develop these defenses. That's why they survive better. And that's why when you take antibiotics or glyphosate, and I think that's also a contributing factor to the explosion of a lot of gut issues and SIBO and all these things. So it's not just the plant foods, which are problematic in other regards, but also these imbalances due to some of this sort of stuff as well are making things, exacerbating things worse in that environment. Now, how much? Don't ask me. There's no studies, because we never look at this relation, because nobody's studying glyphosate as a problem in terms of its gut microbiome effects. There are some general sort of stuff, but nothing specific. That's the reality. Yep, outgassing. Yep, that's world. A lot of furniture, a lot of carpeting, all this sort of stuff nowadays, full of chemicals. Yeah, there's a lot of xenoestrogens and all sorts of things, and other chemicals that are causing a lot of issues. So, taurine, choline is really good at methylating away both estrogen compounds, xenoestrogens, and sort of a lot of these sort of related things as well. So it's probably another reason why I usually do recommend a bit of supplementation for people that have been exposed to a lot of these things, that they need more methyl donors to deal with the excess xenoestrogens. And the best one to use is choline. And don't worry about TMAO, because that's a nonsense thing. Damn, sounds good, Harry. Maybe I'll try that. Why not? That was their liver thing. Yes, Novavax expected to come in a lot of countries in November, but the TGA hasn't clearly stated yet whether it's a booster only or a primary one as well. Still just a matter of waiting. Well, I heard recently that Pfizer are maybe getting the booster, being earmarked for the booster. That's why they bought additional stuff. So it may not be the booster. So Novavax may be just an additional sort of thing, basically. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's not clear yet, but yeah, TGA is taking their time, like the FDA took their bloody time as well. Yes, it seems like politically, Pfizer, Moderna, some of these companies seem to have more traction with the politicians and getting them to buy more of their product. And Novavax are not having as much success in the developed countries. So they've actually ventured off to India and a few other countries. They've actually gone into a joint venture. One of the actual vaccines in India is a Novavax-based one, which they've licensed because they're finding it very hard in the first world, in the advanced countries like Europe, Australasia, North America, to actually get the governments to buy enough. Basically, it's not a conspiracy. It's just basically that the Pfizer people and these other companies have got deeper pockets and have been buying off the politicians and their support base to get their product in the market. Simple as that. Nothing new. Just traditional, corrupt capitalism practices. That's the problem. So yeah, unfortunately. Eating too much. You've been a bad llama for eating too much. Yes, we should send you to a gulag for doing that. Some perfumes set, yeah, exactly, yeah, set off. Yeah, they do have a number of compounds that both xenoestrogen and also can cause allergies in different amounts. Even some people do claim that there is no research. Let me make that quite clear. This is what some people claim, maybe speculation, but there is some in everyone, there is some sub level of reactivity. I suspect that's a bit true. Even if it's a hormetic effect, there is some truth in that. Some of these compounds are just not naturally found in the human body or the diet. So I don't think we should be putting on them or ingesting them in any way or whatever. I don't. So I don't even use perfume. I used to, but I don't. Au natural. So I have to be careful on buses and trains. Oh, do you now? You smelly. You smelly. Is that what you're telling me? Are you cheating, Richard? No, I don't put any of that stuff. Even my toothpaste is basically, I get it from City Organic. And my toothpaste is basically free of all these sort of, components. It's really a basic toothpaste, which is pretty safe. And it's a more cheaper version, a cheaper type. They do have slightly more expensive, but when you look at the ingredients, there's not much difference. So why pay the extra money? So yes, so they're in Criterion Street if we're in Hobart, and at the bottom of Criterion Street on the corner of Liverpool and Criterion Street, there's a pharmacy there where they sell niacin. So that's where you get the niacin, and if you need to order some, you go in there and you can order it. The price has gone up a bit from what I hear. Anyway, I think from 26 to 28 bucks. Is that right? Hello Kitty. I can't remember now. I think that's what you said. There is also Chemist Warehouse. I think there's one in North Hobart that also sells it, but it's more expensive, but they will price match from what I hear. Anyway. Yeah, it's a hassle for all of us, I know. Hitting the ouzo, mate. Hitting the ouzo. I didn't realise that. Actually, one of my mates, he's basically from, his origins are from the Central Highlands, one of the Parsons. So, the old sort of gentry of the Tasmania, really the old families and all that. He's actually related to the Queen as well. And basically, he loves ouzo even more than me. I'm not kidding you. I mean, even his dad's dead, but even his dad couldn't understand him, what's wrong with whiskey or something like that. Nah, Andrew, is just incredible. I mean, he literally guzzled down the ouzo. He loves ouzo. So, yeah, it's an acquired taste, as they say. I don't mind it, but I'm not a big ouzo drinker. But, it's the last person I would have thought of, somebody with his background that would be a big ouzo drinker. But here you go. He had a ball of a time in Greece when we were there. God. Or when we go through the airport with all the drinks. Oh, God. Glug, glug, glug. I don't know that guy. My bottles of alcohol I actually wrapped around in clothing so they wouldn't actually make noise. But then, yeah, exactly. Andrew just bought so much. God almighty. Even my brother-in-law said, because he actually took him to the airport. So I actually was still on the island at the time, so he flew out earlier. I flew out much later, so he was just telling me the story of anyway. I still got some, let me say, organic grass rump. Yeah, we actually, some of it down here, it varies in price. Sometimes we can get it slightly less than that. Sometimes a bit more than that. Depends. It depends where you're getting it. Certain pork and lamb cuts, $10. Okay, that's pretty good. That's really good. That is really bloody good. Yeah, our pork's a bit more, but then I don't get the regular stuff. I get the sort of actually the supermarket stuff's about $15 or $13 sometimes on a special in Tassie. But the stuff that I get is usually about $17. But it is, foraging, so it's free range foraging porker. So it's, I don't mind, at least I know that it's been foraging, so I prefer that if I'm going to put it in my body. Yes. More dangerous eating fruit during winter. Yep, definitely. Deuterium and lack of deuterium depletion. Fruit is very high in deuterium. And also, you do not want the photonics of, that's a different, with the light, magnetism, deuterium, light, I haven't got into it, but the light factor of the photonic energy that actually get released by when you oxidize foods from, and they're not in the seasonal sort of thing. It sort of has an effect on the mitochondria, and also in terms of also even the circadian rhythm. So it's has a lot of bad implications. That's why seasonally deuterium depleting plus the right signaling to the body. Yes, there's a lot of things that can actually derange the body in subtle ways. Obviously, I think diet is a bigger thing. Jack Cruz thinks about, these things have a more pronounced effect. I do think they have an effect, but not as pronounced as he thinks. Probably me and Bart more agree on the food side being more important. But still, in winter, less capacity to basically deplete deuterium. And fruit is the worst carbohydrate. And actually, a fruit that is basically ripened actually has even more concentrated. This is the recent video that Bart did about Salad Boy, and he was going, you get rid of the anti-nutrients when you allow the fruit to ripen. And I usually say, yeah, but also when it ripens, it's got more concentrated deuterium because the plant is actually using it as growth factor to grow that and ripen it with deuterium. So it basically has concentrated even more deuterium when it's ripened. Good one, Paul. Friggin' hell, he's a fruit bat. Probably is. Not a good thing, Mike. Not a good thing. You don't need the fruit. It's the worst carbohydrate in terms of deuterium. Do you love your mitochondria? Respect your mitochondria, and they will respect and keep you energized into old age, like that Maasai 80-year-old who Mary couldn't keep up with. Yeah, I sort of, for my own self, I went a bit bonkers over $200 in one day just before lockdown, and I'm going. And then I realized half of it was basically dairy based, and half of it was, well, not exactly half, but nearly probably about 40% was dairy based and 60% was meat based. And I'm going, God, I went to myself, I looked at the amount of cheese and I'm going, shit, there's a lot of cheese in the fridge at the moment. I went overboard, zombie, went absolutely bonkers. Yes, it's like I'm going to be locked down for a month. But if I am, I got shitloads of food, so I'm going to be fine. Aniseed is nice scent. Mouse. Oh, there you go. You got somebody that likes your scent. Today I just plain smell needs a wash, but Harry's on. Got my priorities right. Au naturel, my dear. Au naturel. Yes. With essential oils. Oh, mate. You're lathering yourself with essential oils. How woke of you. Zombie. I don't mind spend money on food. My friends had a Ferrari, but buys the cheapest crap food at the supermarket. Crazy, I know. At least you got real priorities, right? Yes. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I mean, look, even myself, I used to buy, it wasn't the money side, so, but I used to buy crappy stuff as well. I just had my priorities completely wrong. I'd spend shitloads of money on booze. Like, we used to go out. I remember this was back because I was earning shitloads of money just by building computers and all sorts of things. And I used to also go down to the casino because we used to only have 5 decks. So you could actually, me and my mate, we used to card count and stuff like that. So we'd make like on a one hit or whatever, $300. This is back we're talking about the 80s now. We used to party up at the top of this nightclub, Regine's in Sandy Bay at the time, and plenty of money, plenty of dosh for the ladies and for the good night. And bloody hell did we drink and spend a lot of money on crap. Paid for it later on, but had fun while doing it. Let me put it that way. But yeah, a lot of people do that, especially when more money than sense, as they say. And I was pretty much in that category, more money than bloody sense. Very foolish young man. Funny through people have no issue spending $50 or more on family take out a few times a week. Yeah, exactly. But $300 for 5 people who never get to take out and have cooked meals 4 times a day sounds a lot. Yeah. Oh, look, it's crazy what people prioritize. If you take a look, you get it. People are going to be paying for a pizza like $15. And that is just shit. And then you buy a big steak, massive steak for $15. And the nutrient density in that is just night and day. We definitely have our priorities wrong on many fronts. So, yeah, unfortunately. Ah, yes, the exotic stuff. Yes, Richard. Frankenstein. Yes, very exotic of you. Okay, for the ladies at work. Well, there you go. You're still on the horses and cattle. Get on a new subject. Next, you'll be on Napoleon's slaughterhouse. Peppermint. Yeah, I did actually have. There was a peppermint thing that my sister gave me years ago. That was a really interesting. I just cannot remember what it was called, but yeah, that was a very interesting one. Yeah, the eucalyptus one. Yep. Yeah, everything in my snake oil. Yes. Yeah, you could call it that. Sounds better than it was. Eating cowtails. Oops. Yep. Mistypo. Harry, if time, you can comment on possibly what the push to reduce meat consumption and replace with lab meats is a cover to change land use for foods and energy crops, e.g. methanes and so on. I will do something in that regard. It's part of the myths and falsehoods of veganism, so that should be covered this week in regards to some of that sort of related stuff. So I think it's the second final video that I have to make of that series in that regard. So I'm going to really try and get those videos out for the myths and falsehoods and some of the other stuff, and one of the stuff on something that Paul said that was just idiotic completely. And it had to do about, because he had a study that he showed about the nephron issues and stuff like that with the kidneys. So that needs to be smacked down as well. So let's smack it down. So I need to do that. And there's one or two other things that I need to cover. So yeah, busy week. I'll be a busy little beaver in that regard, but I will cover something in regards to that, because there's quite a few issues that have to do with that to be dealt with. Okay, good to know. Bleach. Bleach hides mold and makes the color vanish, but still comes back. I used a mix of both. Interesting. There you go. Good tips. Beef based. Good to see you, mate. Morning, Harry. I wonder if breeding guinea pigs would be a way around the future animal protein shortages. Yeah, it's an option. They're cute little fellas, though they're conditioned to into seeing them as pets only in UK. I mean, let's not neglect things like chickens and things like little piglets. There's a lot of different options of different sort of animals that you can have and all that. Obviously the big thing with all this sort of stuff is regulation. I don't know what the regulations are in particular in the UK or in any other country. That's where always there's going to be issues. You sort of have to check with the local authorities, find what you can have in your back garden and yard and stuff like that. So there's always those issues. So yeah, these are options as additional meat. That's, a lot of people sometimes, even if they are lean meats, like let's say people have hares or rabbits or stuff like that, then they actually just use they combine that with other fats like dairy fats and stuff like that. So, you're able to get good levels of both fat and protein together. So, there isn't the rabbit starvation. So it's just not in that regard. But there's always different options. That's true. Depends on local regulations. Always, that's the biggest thing. You got to call the local councils to find out what's allowed and what's not. Unfortunately, that's the reality nowadays. Unless you're living in a rural area where you've got much more freedom of how to run your own property. That bad is you got to bring it under control, because that stuff has a lot of problems with it in that regard. It also will raise blood sugar. It also will cause some level of insulin to rise as well. So it's not a good thing. One thing to clear it out of your system very effectively is ivermectin. So don't know whether you can get your hands on in New Zealand of ivermectin tablets or not, but it does help in clearing up mold within your body. Anyway, my mum is in a country, Victoria. She's always talking about all the cute little bunny rabbits exactly all over her property. And I'm like, wow, I should have moved back home and eat them. Very well said. Yes, but I think they are also a bit pests because they are introduced species which cause a lot of soil erosion. Yes, exactly. So the bunnies, yes. Go down there with a cage and grab a whole lot of them. Just imagining slow cooked bacon, beef stock, and rabbit. Yeah, that would, because you got a lot of fat there, the beef stock and the bacon, really good combo. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, people in the past, when they had lean meats, they also, they larded them. So they would drill into them and actually put pieces of lard. So it actually, as it was cooking and the meat sort of was, you covered it. So you created a steaming effect, which the fluids in sort of steamed and allowed for the actual fats to move through the actual tissue much easier as the tissue was softened. And that was the larding effect of the actual meat. So you got the fat into this sort of meat. So yes, you could do that sort of stuff. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I mean, different countries have different conditioning. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of different things. Yeah, horses, dogs, and anything with eyes in China, it seems. Yeah, exactly. They actually cook things semi-cooked, alive, and actually eat it alive as a delicacy. So they have some really, yes. We should show that to the vegans. God, they'll all become anti-Chinese. The funny thing is, their attitude, their woke attitude, who knows? They'll excuse them. Oh, it's a cultural thing. Yeah, a cultural thing for them, but not for us. Bloody hypocrites. Tracy, she's back. You've missed a lot of entertainment. Let's put it that way. Myxomatosis. Ah, yes. Drama stories for the little bunnies. Mm. Well, a lot of them actually, even in like kibble agriculture, a lot of them get killed in the fields as well, like field mice and other things. So, but it's more the hares and stuff like that. No, it doesn't really. They become immune to them, the majority of them now. So they're actually looking for new solutions, I hear, currently. But they still haven't managed to find a new way of dealing with the plague proportions of rabbits. unless they stand still, it's much easier. You can shoot way easier a wallaby or a kangaroo. A rabbit at a distance is really hard. I know. Close in, yeah. I usually use a shotgun. I've done that. But, yes. I nearly jumped on a tiger snake down here once when I was hunting. Jumped out of the ute, tried to get close and personal with a little bunny with the shotgun, and nearly stepped on the damn snake. The other guys thought it was funny. I didn't. Yes. Harry, do you have any tips on helping sense of smell to return after COVID? No, not really. Nah. I've seen some anecdote. This is not related to COVID. This is related to something completely different. And vitamin D seemed to help with some people. And also, there was something else. What was it? Can't remember. If I remember, I'll put it in the comments. If I remember, I just cannot remember it. Vitamin D seemed to also improve, but there was something else, but I just cannot remember it at the moment. So if it does come to me, I'll put it in the comments or mention it before the stream finishes. So. Be nice if Zoom, it was a Sunday instead of a Saturday. Yeah, look, it's my regular program is the Sunday sort of thing. Look, maybe I could do. Let me think about it. Yeah, the question is with the Eurasian one. It's doable, but it's really hard. It's sort of, I find it that the reason why Sunday is most people are at home on Sunday because the next day they're going to be working, and so they've got nowhere to go. Saturday, people usually go out. They will go out for entertainment. They'll go and see friends. They usually go to different. Even I go down to the Salamanca market when we're not in sort of lockdown. So it's really hard to. That's why I'm focused on Sunday for my programs. It's a really hard one to do in that regard, and it doesn't really work for me to sort of do like Sunday night right after this, like 9 o'clock, then have a Zoom session right after this, because normally on Monday I'll be going to work, so it's just not practical. I need to then get to sleep, so it can't work in that regard. So that's why Saturday is sort of the only real thing that can be done. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. I don't know. I thought about doing it starting earlier, and just because I did about 6 hours. So we started at 9, finished at about a bit after 3 in the morning. Maybe starting at 6 and going to 12 for 6 hours or something like that. Because I want to give people opportunity to come and go and just chat and interact. So to give them more than a sufficient time, I don't mind even if I sort of turn my video off and just walk away, I could do that as well. So it doesn't really bother me. I was engaged, and so I didn't mind staying for those hours. But I can always go and just leave it on. I don't have a problem with that, and people can come and go as they wish. That's not sort of the issue. I don't have that issue. It's just that basically, otherwise, it's the time constraints. How to put it in that regard. But if earlier is something on a Saturday night, that's an option. Just let me know if whether on the same day earlier works for you or not. Because some people have said maybe a bit earlier. So, yeah. And that's the other thing with Richard as well. He couldn't stay very long. And that's why I'm thinking about doing it a bit earlier. So people in Australasia and, in this sort of region that tend to be it's later can actually stay on for longer as well. So I'm actually thinking of bringing it back to maybe 7 o'clock or, so I've got enough time to have them, finish my even meal and just do a few of my own things. Because at the same time I usually do in the evenings on Saturday, I usually do my laundry, and then I didn't bother because I'm on holidays and I've pretty much did most of the stuff on the Friday because I left early from work. But normally I do it on Saturday night and get it all out of the way. And there's only a bits that may be issues early in the morning on Sunday, but normally most of it's done on Saturday night now. So that's the other thing. So there's a lot of things that I have to do myself. Got a day job, got a whole lot of time, and I'm just trying to fit things in. It's not always very easy, but I'm willing to consider some modifications. I need the Saturday. That's the thing. The Saturday morning in particular, and midday. For my friends and family and people like that. In that regard. What's your take on lysine being antiviral? Look, there's a lot of amino acids. I mean, taurine. There's a number of other amino acids that do have even it's even leucine under certain circumstances. There are cases where they do have other properties in that regard. But if you're having low inflammatory diet and you're having a species appropriate diet, you'll get, these compounds help, but they're not a panacea. At the end of the day, what you want is low insulin, high glutathione. If you've got high insulin, you'll have low glutathione. The most powerful thing in your body is glutathione and superoxide dismutase. When you're in a low carbohydrate state, those things are more prominent. Those intracellular antioxidants will do the job, and glutathione will also recycle both vitamin C and vitamin E. That's why you don't need as much when you're in that sort of state. You only need more vitamin E and vitamin C when you're either degrading it, using it up much faster on a kibble diet, or can't recycle it. So that's the issue. So it depends. This is what I say. Depending on what you're eating and what your state of insulin is and all that, affects your micronutrients requirements. That means the cofactors that you need to do a whole lot of enzymatic activities, catalyzing a whole lot of processes in the body, will vary quite a bit from the diet to diet or lifestyle to lifestyle. So I don't really get too wound up about, I need this supplement and I need that supplement, and give us a break. Just eat a species appropriate diet, keep the environmental toxins down, and most people should do pretty well. It's only people transitioning that have got underlying conditions where I look at taurine supplementation, L-citrulline, all these other things as interventions, boron to stabilize and normalize hormones. I use them as interventions, as short-term interventions. B vitamins with vitamin D to rebuild the beneficial bacteria. 3 months. They're all interventions. They're not lifestyle. You know, when we're talking about lifestyle and biohacking, I stick to other things like senolytics, like fasting, like certain exercise types. These are the things that you want to do, and take out other things that are deleterious. That's how you should approach these single sort of. A lot of this is all associational as well with the studies. Yes, it has, but it's a minor thing. If you're eating a whole lot of kibble, it just overwhelms that you can take as much lysine supplementation. Irrelevant. So eat shitload of seed oils. It'll be completely, utterly irrelevant. Upregulation of glutathione is the main game, the master antioxidant. And if you look after the body will look after you. Now, if you eat meat, you'll get a lot of these amino acids. If you eat meat, you will get these amino acids. You don't need to supplement. The only reason I recommend citrulline as a vasodilator is because when you take in arginine, your liver can hog arginine, can take up more if it needs it. If your liver is healthy, it won't take up as much. So when somebody's transitioning and got health problems, like I had, and still have to some degree, I do recommend citrulline because it's a vasodilator. Good for the other head down there as well, vasodilating that 30 minutes before having fun. But at the same time, what L-citrulline does is bypass the liver and then gets converted to arginine, and from arginine to nitric oxide. So, nitric oxide has a lot of benefits in the body. And one of them is, relaxing the muscle, the arteries, and, what we call vasodilation, and basically allowing for better blood flow and lowering blood pressure. So, normally if you're healthy, the meat will provide enough that you need. If you're not healthy and you've got issues, then you may need a bit more. That's when supplementation comes into the game. Depends on your circumstances. So if you don't need it, you don't supplement, you don't waste your money. But if you do, depending on your circumstances, then yes, it may be, prudent to take some of this. Bart, myself, Mary, Pim, and a number of others that are sensible carnivores, we recommend these things only as short-term interventions, or interventions to fix deficiencies, fix issues that are there that are required to properly regulate things or to properly fix certain things. And how long depends. Like with seed oils, I usually recommend up to 7 years if you've had severe exposure to seed oils, because you're going to be, and when you're actually losing weight, like rapid weight, you're going to be releasing a lot of this damaged sort of fatty acids. Well, you need to stabilize them with additional, vitamin E, low dose vitamin E, the complex, which is what in the Jarrow formulation exists. So it depends. All these things are dependent on a number of circumstances. Thank you, StreamYard, for basically moving things the way you did. Again, I'm behind again. Bloody hell. Yeah, see, Angela, exactly. Let me move on, Bo. I've been watching the volcano all this time. Are you still watching the volcano? She's addicted. Bo, you're addicted. It's a holiday spot. I understand. I sympathize. I must be eating too much dairy. I have to say, the other problem, the constipating effect. Yes, maybe not enough of the lactobacillus and bifidobacteria as well. That can ameliorate that problem. There's also the other one, which is the Metaflora, which is that German one that I've talked about. That also is reduces constipation as well. Yeah, it usually, these are imbalances in certain bacteria, because a lot of us, we ate kibble, we did imbalance and cause a lot of things, and some of these strains have been decimated, and in the current microbiome environment have not come back. Most cases when they look at people's gut microbiomes, even when they get on a healthy diet again, most people are deficient in lactobacillus bacteria. Most. So they are very sensitive to glyphosate. They are very sensitive to antibiotics. It's a problem. And your mother coats you when you come out of her birth canal, coats you with lactobacillus of all the different strains. That's how bloody important they are for good gut functioning. And in the last 20, 30 odd years or whatever, with glyphosate and a whole lot of other overuse of antibiotics, we've decimated them. Aren't we smart? And caused ourselves a lot of gut, yes, a tsunami of gut issues. HD, don't. Bo's worried enough. You don't need to exacerbate the issue for her. Beef zombie guinea pigs. You guys are still on the guinea pigs. Oh, God. Oh, what about people with constant bloating? Not rooted in lactose, vitamin D deficiency, or poor diet veganism. A lot of factors are at play, depending on the glyphosate, the compounds, the Prevotella levels. So if they're consuming a lot of veganerized foods, that can raise Prevotella, that can raise a lot of the interleukins, a lot of the inflammatory sort of markers. So, and it varies between vegans because of their different genetics as well. So so you usually have to do a panel. Actually, the best way is to just D vitamins, vitamin D, B vitamins, and a species appropriate diet. It usually fixes even a vegan, but trying to convince them of that is a horrendous experience, as we've all witnessed for some time in that regard. I love doggos so much, but in an apocalypse, if my kids were starving, I would cook anything. So would any vegan parent, I reckon. Yeah, basically, precisely. Fido is relieved. Oh, Betty's. Barbecue their dogs. Damn. Well, at least, Richard, you could get from, Korean or Chinese cookbooks, you could probably get some really good recipes. Yeah, I know. How inappropriate. Move on. Oh, God. Oops. On heart? No. Really? You can actually make pate of heart? Never heard of it. I've done mince with heart, so combined 1/3 heart, 1/3 beef, and 1/3 basically lamb. And also I've done with pork as well, combination. But as mince, but I've never done it in pate. You can actually make it in a pate. Really? Oh, okay. That's a new one for me. Never knew that. Thank you. May look into it. Maybe it's something that I should try. I do love patés. Novavax will be a primary and a booster. Too many people holding out for it. Will demand it. If I go there, I want Novavax and I want to see the actual bottle. You're not putting anything else into me. So otherwise, goodbye. I'm not doing it. So Just need to pressure them. Yeah, exactly. There will. I suspect so. I think a lot of us are literally waiting for Novavax for a whole lot of reasons, to get all the other cockwombers off our backs, to be able to travel for a whole lot of reasons. For me, it's travel. For others, it's work related. Others, it's family related, all sorts of reasons. Nothing like laughing. You should. What you need to do is just make a big sign with a mascot, Carney Llama. That's what you should actually call yourself, a Carney Llama. I'm giving you ideas. Well, is that the truth? In a natural emergency, if neighbours are dead, I'm eating their dog. Oh well, they won't miss it. God, move on. 1 gram of protein per centimetre of height. Yeah. G'day, Matos. Let me. Yeah. I usually. What does that come to? It's usually I recommend a couple of grams per kilo of body weight. Of your average weight, what your weight would be in the middle of the BMI type thing, or approximately. It's not accurate exactly, but I usually do for mine. I do anywhere between 2 to 3 grams per day most of the time. But yeah, that probably is a pretty good. That's probably around 3 grams for most people. I think it's around 3 grams from memory. Yeah, that's probably on the ballpark. So I would have to agree with that number. You get the thumbs up. Because that would actually work much better in terms, because body weight is sometimes very hard for people to work out, but height is. So I just checked it. Yeah, it is about you'll get around about that more or less. It's around about 3 grams. Per kilo body weight. And that's a really good level, carnivore level. For gluconeogenesis and everything, it's a really good level. And then you've got the other side. I mean, the one of the highest is around about 3.92, which is a Sandburu on average. Sometimes they go over 4, based on out of the book, basically a paleo book anyway, of Lauren Cordain. Anybody that knows him. So that was on the sand people. So yeah, you can go to those sort of levels, and I usually do. That sort of level, or close to that level myself. Anywhere between 2 and 3, depends on the day, But my average is about 2.5 per kilo, which is probably about about 85% of that. So 0.85 grams per centimetre would be mine. So approximately on average. Sometimes I do a bit more, sometimes a bit less, but yes, I'm just slightly below that. Yeah, look, zinc is one of those things, but there is something else as well. Zinc does help in that regard. I've heard that, but there was something else. I just can't remember it. Yes, not coming to me. My daughter only has out smell taste a week or less, and it's because of her high zinc and D. There you go. So the combination does work without whatever the other thing was that I can't remember. Yep. That's why I knew D helps in that regard, because it does help with the mucosal layers, the tight junctions within the nose and some of that sort of stuff. So it does help some of the, but there was something else, but I just can't remember what it was. But zinc was another thing that is associated. There's no mechanistic study, but there is a strong association. Harry, your stamina is unbelievable. Yeah, I can go for hours. I was pretty much like that as a youngster as well. So I don't think it's necessarily just purely the carnivore diet, but I think it's, I do have that sort of disposition, so to speak, to just push on and don't complain and just get on with it. It probably comes from my father. He's very much the same. But I have to say that the carnivore diet does make a difference. Even though I did push myself, if I was on a different diet, I'd be pushing myself, but I'd be yawning like mad. I'd be, I definitely wouldn't have, I wouldn't have the stamina, but I'd be pushing myself. Now I'm pushing myself without really much resistance from my own body. So yeah, the carnivore diet definitely makes a difference, DC, definitely. So still on the horses. God. Got to get onto something else, llama. You got to get onto something else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Seafood, very important, really. A lot of the crustaceans have got a lot of micronutrients, and you don't really have to worry about certain minerals. Um, at the end of the day, that's what, if you've got healthy kidneys, they will excrete any excess. Some of it will be excreted in the feces, and some of it, as it's getting recycled and getting running through the bloodstream, will be excreted through the bile. So, if you've got good taurine levels, which come by eating meat, your emulsification, your functioning, also the FXR enzymes in the liver actually are working better with MK4, which is the K2 from the animal foods. So if you're getting those, you're getting the good functioning, and the excretion will happen. So a lot of minerals do get excreted via the bile and then the feces. Some of it gets excreted because it doesn't get taken up by the metalloproteins in the gut lining. So there's a whole lot of regulatory systems. I only think if you take a really high dose of overload these sort of things with supplements rather than real food, that's when you can actually get into problems. That's why the only time I use trace minerals is when I fast. I don't use trace minerals. I get it from the food. But when I'm fasting, I do use those trace minerals. When I've showed you the ones from King Island, the colloidal minerals, I use those with some sea salt in my water, and the low deuterium water that is, and that's what I use, and some B vitamins for the cofactors. So if I want to push, I don't bother if it's just a 1 day or 2 day fast, but if it's like 3, 4, up to 6 or whatever, then I do use these things on the third day, because you do lose quite a few by third days, other than pantothenic acid and a few of the other B vitamins, but you do some of the other major ones. So you do need to replenish those for their cofactor purposes in a lot of the enzymatic processes. The body still needs to do things. I don't classify carbs as safe. I classify carbs as ones that the body can tolerate more and ones that the body can't tolerate. So they can vary. And also, even the ones that the body can't tolerate, that can be sort of, let's say, soaked and dealt with in a certain way to reduce their anti-nutrients. But are they required? Absolutely not. So, yeah, if I'm looking at, things like probably cucumbers, lettuce, like kosh lettuce, these are sort of the least egregious in terms of, their sugar content. They're not extremely heavy in they tend to have more water, and the water tends to be low deuterium because of photosynthesis. Kosh lettuce is very, if you want to get water, like the tribal people get water from its plants similar to kosh lettuce. So those sort of things have a lot of water content, which through this photosynthetic effect is low deuterium. And at the same time, there's bugger all anti-nutrients, but also hardly any nutrients. So you're only getting a plant a lot for the water content, basically. So I do know my sister, even when she does a bit of carnivory, she sometimes just cooks that. Yeah, I know it's a Greek thing. Cooks kosh lettuce with dairy products and mixes it all up and combines it with her meats and eats it. So yes, we don't eat a lot of raw plants in the Greek diet. They usually, even lettuce gets cooked, and that water content can be used in a soup or whatever. So there's other ways. So basically, you could cook kosh lettuce, get all the water content out, put some cream in there and get the water content, throw the actual lettuce out and keep the water and the cream as within a soup, a bone broth or whatever. So low deuterium water combination. So there are ways to do things, even with plants. So, yeah, Richard, not a problem. Thanks for being here, mate. Take care. He's probably already gone. I'm so far behind on the live damn live stream. I'm gonna punch through. If I've answered your oops, you're welcome, mate. Always appreciated. Thanks for being around last night as well. I should encourage Richard to come back on to my live stream one of these days. I'll see whether he did come on once. Maybe we'll get him on again. People prepare for specific themes, get their questions, comments. Well, it's not a Q&A, DC. It's not a Q&A. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be a chat. I just want it to be a free-flowing. Nothing. I don't want to be a theme. That's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is it's a community-based thing, DC, where just people come along and just talk things amongst yourselves. Just be respectful. That's all I ask. Nothing else. No theme, no nothing. I don't want to set like an agenda where people think they have to turn up, ask certain questions, discuss certain things. No, it's not that. The nature is, there may be different issues of the day, different things that concern people, things that people have interest. Anything goes. It's where we can just relax. Tracy said a few things that she said, oh, this is a bit private, but she knew I wasn't recording and I won't record. I made that quite clear. And it's just basically easygoing, people just saying their stuff, and that's pretty much it. And that's the way I like it. It's just a laid back chat amongst ourselves. Dave, good to see you, mate. You're in the UK at the moment, aren't you? Did you get through Boris's net? Did you commando style get back to the British Isles from Spain? Or was your armada intercepted by Boris, the menace? Scotty. Yes. Beef-based. That's provided you can get ivermectin in the UK, of course. Yes, it's true. Yeah, there are restrictions. Actually, I was talking to my brother Sean. His sister in Sydney, she's got horses, and she was talking to a vet, and they pretty much sold out of ivermectin for horses. And she goes, I know they're not using them for the horses. So, yeah, people are getting... I'm reluctant to try the horse stuff. I haven't looked into it, and it's not definitely not suitable for human consumption. I don't know what else it's got in it. I tried looking at one website, but it wasn't clear. It just said ivermectin for horses, but didn't really say what the ingredients, whether that had any other stuff in. And so I'm really reluctant to sort of recommend anything like that to people because I don't know enough. And I don't know, especially, I don't know enough about the Australian veterinary version, let alone in other countries. So definitely I couldn't. But it's very easy to get in Southeast Asia and very easy to get in the South America. So if you have contacts or friends and can get them you can send them the dosh and they can mail you the stuff, that's probably your best bet. Let's put it that way. I'm thinking about that option myself at the moment. See if Mira can get me some from Indonesia. David, good to see you, mate. Now, I need to start moving through this. We need to catch up. Steak day keeps the dentist away. Definitely. Yes, that reminds me. I've got that video to do of some of those new probiotics. That the other one with the Ruteri one suppresses the pathogenics, but doesn't restore the ones you may have lost completely. These new ones are basically the ones that you've lost, restoring those and putting them back in your mouth like as if you're a tribal or person that never went through a modern diet and lost them. So thanks for reminding me, Robert. That video needs to be made as well for those new strains that people need, especially people that have still got some issues with their oral health in that regard. So good reminder. I sometimes forget about these things. Very important. I'll do that video this week. And I tried dog stew in Korea. I bet you did, mate. I would say pretty juicy. Did I bark back to you? Carly's missing out on spermin and spermidine. No. Actually, they have some bad side effects as well, long-term usage. So I don't usually recommend them. If I look at compounds, I would prefer going down the pathway of fisetin as a senolytic, far less problematic. Even that has some issues, so you can't overuse it. You can only use it for 5 days in high doses because of the mTOR suppression, which isn't good because it becomes too catabolic. So that's the other thing. I am investigating whether the leucine supplement could be used to impede the mTOR suppression sort of side to see whether you could actually do it on a daily basis with a leucine supplement. So I'm not that confident about it, but I'm investigating things at the moment to see what I can find in that regard. Because it would be, a lot of us have got a lot of senescent damage, and it would be much nicer to basically, kill off more of those senescent cells, get rid of them faster. So, hey Harry, have you done a video on Novavax? Yeah, there is one on Novavax that I've actually did do. Yep, I need to catch up. The video is let me find it quickly. because I actually discuss it. Everything that I'll actually say now, I do discuss in that about the structure of it, the way it's designed, the way it's put together, all that sort of stuff. So there's no value in me at this point. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, this one. Are Novavax spike protein safe? That's the one. That is it. And I'll just put it right at the bottom there for you, mate, and you can actually watch it at your heart's content. That covers everything in regards. I'll actually pin that right to the top, anyone, and that is the one where I cover the Novavax stuff and talk about exactly everything about it. So, Chris, good to see you, mate. Yep. So you do something very similar. Very much. Smart man. Yes, the taller you are, it can be. Yeah, quercetin can have issues. Can have issues. I don't recommend it. I recommend it only when you need it. It's a poor senolytic in that regard. Even a lot of people have been promoting EG, CG, from green tea and stuff like that. Actually, it does the reverse. It basically increases senescent cells, actually aged cells. Yeah, green tea. Yeah, the great thing. Oh, green tea does. Remember the study I did on the senescent cells? EGCG, which is in green tea. Not good. Quercetin was basically, pretty poor. I recommend more using quercetin for more things like, as an ionophore when you get the COVID, getting it into with the zinc. Because it's a positive ion, you have to transport it in via the receptor, can't get in otherwise. Otherwise, all our zinc would flood in every one of our cells and stop our body's ability to use the machinery to replicate and synthesize, transcript enzymes and stuff like that. Not a good thing. So I always recommend quercetin to be used in combination with a zinc lozenge, for the respiratory system. Only when you need it. It's in my drawer there to be used when I need it, not on a regular basis. That's what vitamin D is, to maintain a good immune system. And then those things are only used. And as a senolytic, it's piss poor. So I wouldn't bother with it. Neff, how are you, mate? Harry, hi, guys. I'm back home for the winter now. Good. Hope all is fine. People having a great day. So you were on holidays? Good to. That's why you had vanished for a while. Good to know you had a good time. Yeah, we're all pretty good. We've been having a few interesting periods. We're in lockdown in Tassie. Yeah, 3 days until Monday. So see how whether they extend it. I was outdoors today without a mask. Yes. Oops. Hope they're not watching. Homeopathy is good for loss of smell and taste. Don't know much about it. I think it's pseudoscience, Michael, to be honest. But there may be some aspects that are okay anecdotally that have been, have used, but most of it is a bit on the woo-woo and placebo effect. Yep, has been working on an amazing catamaran. Okay. Holding up 400 people with a great captain and crew. I felt blessed to having the opportunity and good paid. Sounds good. Yeah, a mate of mine is a bit of a yachty, goes all around the world doing the same. So he loves it as well. He used to work with me. He's retired now, but he still basically travels and does this sort of thing. Yeah, it's been a bit of a hassle for him getting in and out the country. Sick of quarantine. And well, luckily the companies that actually employ him, they pay for his ticket, so it's not as bad. He just has to suffer the quarantine. Cooked cucumber and cheese go really well together. Yeah, you can actually shred it as well. I've done that. But I have to say, I love pickled cucumber. It's one of my... I just like the taste of it. It's just... Yeah. Anyway, I do like a lot of cured foods and all that. I'm just so happy I don't have a histamine issue because the amount of cured stuff that I consume is massive. I mean, I can't... Even today, yesterday I had cured stuff. Today I had cured stuff. I nearly have every day cured stuff. So, yes, luckily I don't have that problem. You can also taurine actually reduces, and choline can also methylate away some of the stuff. So these factors can help reduce histamines. Probably the only histamine that I really feel potent is when I take my niacin supplement in the skin. Yes. Lovely doing that on occasion every second day. Oh, you're going on Friday to the UK. You're not there yet. Mate, I hope your armada doesn't get sneered by Boris. Yes, exactly. That Boris. Sounds good. Great commentary. Australian lockdown experience. Zoom Island, 15 months at it now. Hope over soon for you. Yes, we all do. Be able to basically move around and stuff like that. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's yeah, exactly. These bloody lockdowns are becoming a absolute pain in the ass. Let's put it that way. Oh yes, well, you could combine it with cat food. Yes, you're welcome, mate. That was the height too. Yes. Yes, very much so. Do you recommend to drink milk for low deuterium instead of water? Yep, I do. God, I made it to the bottom. Can you believe that, llama? Bloody hell. Impressive. And I've got 3 minutes to go before I finish my live stream. 3 minutes. I actually got to the bottom. Impressive. And Neff gets in there. Next year, hopefully, I'll get to be with the boat 3 weeks on off shift with Master September. Yep. Look, yeah, exactly. Hopefully you do. I know Pete's trying to hopefully that everything, because he's sick and tired of all these bloody... I mean, he came down here. I know Pete came down here because I bumped into him. We had a bit of a chat, and he sort of came down because about the city to Hobart, but then it's sort of, not happening from what I can see, because he's done, what has he done now? 26 or 27 Sydney to Hobart. So he's done plenty of yachting races down here. I mean, the only yachting stuff that I've done is in the down here, got on, assisted, or basically I did one pilot, a couple of times, and this was an old gent that had a wooden boat, and we used to go out a couple of times. So that was many years ago. Haven't done it for a while. Did have an opportunity recently, but I conflicted with something else. But in hindsight, I should have taken up the offer. They don't come very often, especially when you're not very experienced and you haven't done it for a long time. So people don't give you the opportunity to sail. So anyway, I may get a chance in the future, maybe. Yeah, you too, mate. Have a good weekend. And thanks for being here, mate. Yeah, always appreciated. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, this week hopefully the Monday will be the last lockdown day. Hopefully. Can't guarantee these things, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I have to do a genetic test for health with 23andMe, but apparently they aren't available in my country. Oh, that's strange. I need to take a test from a third party, but I read that only bad stories with those tests. Yeah, that's a hard one. Where are you located, DJ Projectus? Where are you located on the planet? Because I know there are sometimes ways around these things. Romania. Okay. How close are you to, are you on the west side or the east side of Romania? Because what I'm thinking of, you could probably go to one of the neighbouring EU countries, and east. Okay, so that's a bit of a problem. So you'd have to travel with a plane to get to one of the other places, or it'd be quite a lot of distance. Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. Let me look into it. I'll look into it, see what other options exist. So ask me next week, okay? And I'll look into it and see what options exist beyond 23andMe, but one of the other companies, because it's really important to get the right sort of, there are only a couple of companies, and see, I'm always problematic. You're welcome, not a problem. There's always an issue with some companies that they go, people, they've gone bust and people have lost their online data. With 23andMe, it's unlikely. Some of the others, like, Ancestry and all that, they don't do the Hoppler groups and all that. They miss a lot of things, so I don't really find them reliable enough as the general commercial stuff ones. 23andMe is much better than that. But there are a couple of other companies which are in Europe. I think there's one in Germany, and they may actually, I just can't remember the name. Somebody, a friend of mine told me, but so I'll find out, and then I'll let you know. I'll actually, once I get the information, I'll put the details. Come back to this video, this live stream, and I'll pin the information of the company in Germany. So they I believe will cover most of Central Europe and Eastern Europe and stuff like that. So there is another company also, I think in Estonia, they may as well, and they are fairly established for many years, and they're a sort of a centre where a lot of people from Scandinavia go there. So they're going to be in business for a long time because they've got a lot of patronage from Scandinavia. So, but I can't remember that company either. So I'll put it down, and then you can decide. Look at their website and see what you like and what you don't. So that's the best option. in that regard. Yes, you're welcome. Well, guys, it is that time of the night. We're past the, well, we've got about, 40 seconds until we get to 3 hours and 30, which was the cutoff time, because there's only so much, with the StreamYard hours that I get per week, and so per month, sorry. So I sort of have to balance out the hours. So it was great having you all here. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks, Angela, as always. Thanks for being there last night as well. Is it okay to drink fat that drips from cooking beef? Yeah, why not? I don't have a problem. If you're in a low insulin state, your body will be able to deal with even some little bits of oxidation, so let's get over it. It's only severe stuff like from seed oils and stuff like that. Thanks, mate, as well. Neff, yep, yourself, Barbados, and Alex, Zombie, DJ Projectors. Yeah, thanks, everyone. Appreciate it for being here. Do leave us the recipe, Gin. Just kidding. Tom, thanks, mate. And Scotty. So, had a nice time. I hope I see more of you guys at the next Zoom session. So, let's try and get a few more people. We got up to about, for a small amount of time, up to 24. It dropped back to 22, and then it dropped to slightly below 20, but it remained consistently close to 20, which was nice. I was hoping that more people would have participated. That would have been a nice thing as well. But let's see how the next one goes. I hope more people turn up and more people a bit more chatty as well. Thanks, Beef Based. So take care, and I will see you lovely people next week. And if I'm feeling adventurous, you never know. I may even run another Zoom session. You never know. We'll see. Alex, what are you doing? Yeah, it's a hard one, Alex. It's a hard one. Everybody's Sunday, and I'd have to can a live stream, which is a real bummer, so to speak. But let me think about it. There's always a possibility that I may decide I'll do two, rather than do live streams, I'll do 2 Zoom sessions, a morning one and an evening one. Like I do the live streams, maybe that. So 3 hours and 3 hours. And so, once a month for that. And then, yeah, let me think about it. I haven't decided yet. I'll actually put up a voting thing. And let's see how many people vote on it. So community post with a voting thing, and then people can vote on it, whether they want or not. And I'll go on the majority vote. Very democratic. Thanks, mate. Well, you're away. You had a reason. See you, Dom. Good to see you. Thanks for being there as well. See you, Tracy. Yeah, thanks also for being there. Do a 50-50. 50-50. Pole. Yes, exactly. Nothing like a pole, but not a pole dance. I always say that. I've got a Polish friend, I use that. Yeah, I know. It's a corny joke. Yeah. Anyway, see you guys. Good night. And please like and subscribe if you haven't. And for goons, please dislike. The AI will love you as well.